Looks like we're good. Yep. All right.
Well, it's all right, riding around in the breeze. Well, it's all right, if you live the life you please. Well, it's all right, doing the best you can. Well, it's all right, as long as you lend a hand. You can sit around and wait for the phone to ring, waiting for someone to tell you everything. Sit around and wonder what tomorrow will bring. Maybe a diamond ring. Well, it's all right, even if they say you're wrong. Well, it's all right, sometimes you gotta be strong. Well, it's all right, as long as you got someone to lay. Well, it's all right, every day is Judgment Day. Maybe somewhere down the road away, at the end of the line, you'll think of me and wonder where I am these days. At the end of the line, maybe somewhere down the road when somebody plays, at the end of the line, Purple Haze. Well, it's all right, even when push comes to shove. Well, it's all right, if you got someone to love. Well, it's all right, everything will work out fine. Well, it's all right, we're going to the end of the line. Don't have to be ashamed of the car I drive. I'm just glad to be here, happy to feel that. And it don't matter if you're by my side, I'm satisfied. Well, it's all right, even if you're old and gray. Well, it's all right, you still got something to say. Well, it's all right, remember to live and live, live. Well, it's all right, the best you can do is forgive. Well, it's all right, riding around on the breeze. Well, it's all right, if you live the life you please. Well, it's all right, even if the sun don't shine. Well, it's all right, we're going to the end of the line.
What's up? I'm not sure if you guys caught that at the end there. They show Roy's chair rocking with his guitar on it. Because by the time they finished making that music video, Roy Orbison had passed away. And we are, let's see, find the button. Why is it so? I color coded these things and it still jerks off. There it goes. What's going on? All right. Let's get to it. So, a couple things I have to remind you in about, I don't know, what is that? Like 5 hours? The coupon code for Solstice for Dr. Glidden's membership site, the 50% off coupon, is going to be over because on Central Time, that'll be 10 o'clock. Hasta la pasta. Then you'll have to deal with the 25% off coupon after that, which is this one right here. So right now, Solstice still works. So go ahead and take advantage of that while the window closes. Okay. And the other announcement is I have to be on the road tomorrow. Kind of the whole reason why the traveling Wilburys thing, you know. I got to be on the road tomorrow, driving so I can get back from my daughter's birthday, and I got to drop off hot sauce in San Diego. So Dr. Glidden's talk is going to be postponed until Friday. Same bat time, same bat channel, just different day. So Friday. For those of you who want to ask Dr. Glidden any questions, come on then, and you will have access to that. And this drama bullshit of trying to do something simple and not having it work out is absolutely frustrating and mind-boggling. Oh yeah, let's take a look at this real quick. Yeah, drop them. There you go. Just like every other movie. Because apparently guns are useless after they run out of bullets. You can't just reload them or anything. Oh, man. So I went to Metro. I get it. Metro by T-Mobile. It's whatever, but it's like $125 for 4 lines. And you can use any T-Mobile phone on there. So it doesn't matter. Anyhow. Second place. Remember I told you about yesterday when I went to the place that smelled like rancid sewer shit, because it was backing up into their AC and blowing the air into their building. And somebody had been up on their roof and stole like some sort of, I forgot what the guy called it. It's like he's only installed 4 of them in like 10 years or something like that. It's a very, very niche item. He's like, I'm not sure why anybody would steal this because like what is the purpose? You can't really use it anywhere. Like, who gonna resell it to? I said I guess it would have to be somebody who already has that type of situation set up. But why would they do that? So I'm thinking like the older management of that place just wanted to fuck with them. They were probably bitter and just like ripped off the vent that pushed all the sewer smell into their it's like the AC and the sewer lines are like right next. I guess. I don't know. But anyway, that place there is shit. And the people there are shit. And they're liars. And I looked it up online, found out that they were telling Rebecca a bunch of bullshit. And she's like, well, $2,000 worth of free phones and 4 lines for locked in for 5 years. I'm like, we're already locked in. We've been locked in for fucking 10 years at this price. Why do we want to move so that they can change it in 5? And I'm like, I don't believe anything that they're saying. I looked it up. It's all bullshit. And they're like, oh, they're merging. They're no longer going to be called Metro by T-Mobile. Absolute fucking liars. They couldn't fix my stepson's phone, and then they bullshitted. They went to this other location, and they're like, oh, yeah, someone reassigned your SIM to a different device. But we don't know what that is, but it was a digital SIM. So they gave him a physical SIM into his iPhone, and then he was good to go. The other people said, oh, I don't know how to fix it, but here, let me try to upsell you some bullshit. So fuck those people, and they smell like shit for a reason. These other people, though, I went over there, and hooray! I was treated with 1 large gordita, and I'm not talking about the food, and another one who put all her weight in the chest, which I didn't have a problem with, but she was an idiot. And it's like, so it's essentially 2 gorditas. And I was not interested in either. And then they tried to talk shit to me afterward because I'm like, I have my PIN for my account and my ID. Why do you have to bounce a PIN to some other person's phone? My phone is broken. I've gone through this. I've been with you guys for like 13 years. You don't need to contact one of the other phone numbers on the account to send them a 4-digit PIN or 6-digit PIN and have them read it back to you. I'm like, I'm sure I'm not the first person who came in here with a phone that's broken and wants to replace it with the new one. Why would you feel like you had only that option? Like, will they make you change your PIN and your password and your whatever security questions? I'm like, no, they fucking don't. The fact that I have the PIN and it lines up with my name and that's my driver's, you don't fucking need anything else. You don't need to ping somebody else on my on my account? What if I didn't have anybody else on my account? So I'm like, I don't like any of your answers, and your ignorance shows that you don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I don't want your fingers in my account at all. So I had to leave again. I had to fucking leave again. So no phone yet. No phone yet. It's been sitting here for a fucking week. No phone yet. I can't activate it. I think they put people in positions that are ignorant, so that frustration doesn't solve problems, and people get frustrated and then they just accept whatever the fuck they're telling them. I also think that because of our distance from the border, they're banking on more people who have Metro by T-Mobile would be, what do they call it? Speedy Gonzales. And so they might appreciate seeing their own kind. I don't appreciate it. I want somebody who's competent. And now, if that person can also be Mexican, fine. But they haven't been yet. And it is what it is. They have an attitude towards you. They talk about us being like, everybody's fucking racist against us. They treat us like shit. They treat us like they're better than us. They don't get out of our way in the fucking grocery store. It's fucking retarded. And they walk with their fat asses 3 wide down an aisle. Which in most cases we would have room for 5 people, but they're fat. So it's like, am I supposed to get out of your way when you're walking side by side, shoulder to shoulder, and you can't just fucking move behind one another and be polite and courteous? We're paying for your fucking life. We're probably feeding your kids. Why can't you just get the fuck out of our way? And then they don't put away their shopping carts, and I think to myself, there's no nobility in this group of people. And that's not to say that there aren't. There's just bad upbringings in certain people, and it's rampant in a certain group of people that they have they don't have good upbringing. They don't have good examples growing up. They're hustlers, and they're mooches, and they're entitled because our system, made by the parasite, makes everybody who has absolutely nothing going for them rich off of you. They're driving $100,000 fucking pickup trucks that are 10 feet tall. I'm bumming around in a van that needs a fucking tune-up because I don't have the luxury of all the bullshit that they get for free. It is what it is. I'm sure other people have the same. So that's what I'm saying. Like this. Just to go back to this, there's a reason why this thumbnail here, and I'll show you. I gotta get to change the thing. There's a reason why that thumbnail, how it starts and how it ends. Like you start your day off, hey, brand new day, optimistic, thumbs up. Yeah, let's kick some ass. Let's lift some weights, get fucking pumped. Let's go get on the elliptical. Let's go outside and go for a walk or jog. Let's get freaking amped. And then you have to interact with people, and you realize, I don't think I belong here. I'm not even talking about illegal. I feel like either I'm the alien or they are. Who invaded what? Where did all the people go? Was I under a false impression my entire freaking life? Did I ask the wrong question? So I just, didn't catch that I was in a world full of fucking cardboard fucking morons? Like, what is going on here? And then you get into this position where you're like, ah! Right? Come on. You know what I'm talking about. If you can't admit it, I'll admit it for you. 3 people? Go fuck yourself. There you go. I'm not sure what's going on at 5:30 p.m. on a... What the hell's that all about, guys? Should I just go do something else? Nathan Waffen, hello. Oh yeah, Genuine Glory, if you're here, I have also made you a mod. And also, what's his name? I didn't mean to snap that. That just happened. Lifeguard is also a mod over here now. So I guess when you put the Dr. Glidden stuff up here, people just assume that that's what the show is about, telling you that it's being rescheduled. And I put my hand, it says important announcement. Plus, yes, it is coming to a close. So if you're going to be taking advantage of that, you best do it before 10 p.m. West Coast, midnight Central Time, and I guess that would make it 1 a.m. on the East Coast. That's when the coupon code is supposed to expire, and I can only go based off of what he says. He said on the show that day. So there's a good chance that it's going to be not, if it's automatic, it won't be active after midnight his time. He has been kind in the past and let it run a couple extra days to give people a chance. Plus, they beat it the 30th, like some people, their pay schedules, it'd be like better if it was like the 1st or the 2nd. All right. Show enough. Am I the meanest? Am I the prettiest? Do you know Bruce Leroy? Come on. All right, so we have a bunch of these here. I'm not sure who I'm talking to right now. Motherfuckers didn't get their notifications that I went live or something. Maybe I went too early for my crowd. Maybe my crowd's used to being a little later. Let me go ahead and jump on to not that. You know what? Let me take a look. Maybe it's not actually linked up. You know what? Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. There it is. That's what I want to do. All right, I'm going to drop this in a couple of places. Oh, so yeah, so Dr. Glidden, and then I think Ryan Gable's coming on next week sometime. I don't remember what we said. Did we make a time? No, probably not, because he's Japanese. He's from Japan. Yap yap. So I think we still have to wait for him to get back to me on that. I hope I didn't mess that up. Some people tell me things, I'm like, yeah, down with it. Definitely no way I'll forget that or completely, do that exact thing and forget it. Yeah. Let's go to, I got to drop this into Telegram. Biggie Bob. Oh, it's not even, okay, good. Sometimes it doesn't pop up the link. Like it doesn't show the picture display, the preview, because they're gay in the butt. There you go. You guys can't see it because anything that's on the bottom taskbar doesn't pop up unless I put on the display capture. Okay, I think we're good now. Now I had a couple things. I found this guy. I don't know how it happened. Probably from watching Here's the Deal. But there's a dude it's like criminal lawyer. What the fuck just happened? I didn't fucking press a button, you pieces of shit. What the fuck? So we watch Here's the Deal occasionally. We watch High Impact Flicks. That's Brian Young. The CLR, which is criminal defense lawyer or whatever. This is Bruce Rivers. This guy's actually pretty interesting. So I've been watching that more recently. What the fuck are you doing? I'm just looking at the sidebar. Jesus Christ. Dr. Sam Bailey's also on YouTube. Nick's Quick Reviews. If that's our friend, that's Nicodemus. You guys should be following that. It's like knife reviews and camping gear and stuff like that. You should check that out. Slapstick's an awesome band from my high school day. Myth Vision's a piece of shit, but I like to show how they're wrong sometimes. So it's not always a piece of shit. Like there's some things they get right, but then they kind of fall into the Hebrew Jewish lie bullshit. If Iron Maiden wrote Dancing Queen, what? Oh man, I'm trying to think what else we got here. So Sammy the Bull actually had our hot sauces. He made a video for it. He had like 100,000 views on my YouTube channel. I'm sure it'd been like LH is cool. Except his argument with an agnostic informant was kind of lame because both of them are still acting as if just because something is written in ancient Greek that it must be true, and that it certainly couldn't have been that group of moon cult Jews, the Saturn cult, who Ptolemy gave a Greek education to. So when you're hearing about this decrepit, disgusting, demoralizing, ignoble type of practice, this like bacchanalia type of bullshit, Lupercalia, prior to Lupercalia, but like the frenzy, the craziness of a ritual. it makes you think, yeah, that sounds exactly like that cult that Thor encountered. How is that all Greece? How is that not just the infiltrators being the ones talking? And if they're maybe writing a polemic or a hateful overview of a guy that they didn't like, or maybe a group of people like, I don't know, Gothic Aryans that they didn't like, and they personified him in one person called Jesus, and then said he was a bunch of things that they are. You know how they do that projection thing? Like, there's so many things that could still be at play there that you can't just be like, well, the ancient Greek, it's the source, and therefore it's gospel, literally, right? No, not really. It depends on who's writing it and from what perspective and what's their aim. Just because it's an ancient Greek, well, it's good to know what the first story is that they then try to polish up in Rome under Constantine. It's good to know that, where the source material comes from, but does that mean that the source material has to be true? No, it does not. And so LH has some issues there. And I like him a lot, but Gnostic Informant and their argument, I did not appreciate, because the back and forth was like still anchored upon, and the stupidity of it. Okay. First of all, you calling yourself Gnostic Informant when you were recruited out of prison to be a social media influencer. You calling yourself an informant, you just informed on yourself, you fucking retard. Also, Neil, who's also my father's name, but spelled differently. Gnostic is a polemic term. It's a disparaging term. Nobody who was, first of all, they never even called themselves Sethians. They never called themselves Valentinians. These are all people who talked about them that called them, you know what they call themselves? Christians. If they even call themselves that. Gnostic also, because of the way that they weasel terms together, incorporates the Ophites. The Ophites are the moon cult pretending Christianity with orgiastic rituals, drugs, and blood sacrifices, and fucking around with snakes and snake venom. Harken back, please, to the British Edda. Okay? The serpent cult, adder's blood, or adder's venom, making drugs, pharmakia, aka the same thing that the burning purple was supposed to be. We don't even know if any of this stuff was actually going on in Greece. What we know is that they were definitely doing the same things or talking about the same things in that era that were actually happening 5,000 years ago from now, 5,000 years ago. And whether or not that actually came into the culture or if it was the moon cult talking about their cult rituals, I don't know. And for them to like act as if that was all of Greece succumbing to that type of corruption, we don't know that either. So calling yourself Gnostic is retarded if you're actually, not trying to say something bad about them. Calling yourself an informant upon that when you actually are a recruit from prison, as they do with a lot of rappers, that's also kind of silly. But then to say primary sources when you're not distinguishing, and it's real simple to do this, first-hand accounts or contemporaries. Contemporary means within the same time frame as the event that was allegedly occurring, or the person was alive during this time as they were going through this experience, and this person knows of it because they were around the same time. First-hand account obviously makes sense. You know what that means. But calling it something a primary source just means that everybody else agrees with it. It's academia fucking asshole sniffing. So what people think when they say primary, how can a primary source be 700 years after the fact of something happening? Like Diodorus of Siculus talking about, Pythagoras, for example. Well, it's because of what the term means. It's semantics. And Neil is not trying to make that distinction because he's too busy calling people names and putting down LH. And it's kind of ridiculous that neither one of them said something like, hey, what do you mean by primary source? And then Neil says, it's what everybody else agrees to or has said without contradiction. Well, they're a bunch of academics who are going to echo the same shit because they come way after the fact. They have no firsthand knowledge, and they're not even looking for earlier accounts of something. So repeating something makes it true, apparently, according to Neil. I have a big problem with that, and that's why I just tuned off of the show. I'm like, neither one of these people are arguing intelligently, and I think LH would have done well to say, okay, so you're saying a primary source is simply one that's not argued, and there's no contradictory accounts, versus firsthand account or contemporary, where somebody's talking about it during the same time period. You would think would be a little bit closer to the truth of something. You would hope, unless you didn't like that person. And this is the problem with having the moon cult being able to read and write, is if they don't like you, they're going to write a history or write down something in just like regular journalism, just like media. If they don't like it, they're going to attack it in their writing. And I used to say, well, if there's so many, there was only so many people who could read and write and etch and all that crap during these certain periods of time. So they tell us, why would they take to writing fiction? But it never occurred to me that well, because the majority of these fucking people were the priestcraft, and they were molding the minds of people, and to be a quote unquote scholar was to be basically welcomed in without much ridicule or skepticism, because you were already of a higher intellect, because you were able to read and write. It's so they can mold the minds of people and just lie their asses off and give themselves a secured position in that society, because they write their own importance into it. By either claiming that they can interpret things, or that they have the lock on, or they're the middleman between them and the gods. They know what sacrifices the gods want, as if the gods want sacrifices, because they do. They want to see the blood. So they'll tell you that that's what makes your god happy. It's all manipulation, and it's the same moon cult, just corrupting the society and still living in its cultish practices by manipulation of the other people who don't know better. So they terraform every civilization that they encounter through this manipulation. And now they call themselves Jews these days, or they call them even Christians, guys, because it's the Abrahamic death cult trio, which is the Saturn cult in 3 different flavors. And the one in the middle being Christianity, as far as chronological order. Actually, no, that would be Christianity would be first, and then what they call Jews, right? Because that was a reaction to Christianity, so it would be 1, 2, 3. Well, it doesn't matter. There's still the sacrificial class. Okay, I got through all that, and I didn't really show you anything exciting in the background. Oh, cool. Give us a go. Just throw me some cashish. Nice. That's good to know. Religion for breakfast used to be all right. I just like to tear this stuff apart, or at least it's not like me. I'm just trying to find a reason to fuck with it. It's more like, okay, I want to be informed of things I don't know, but I also want to be able to express when I see where they've come to a conclusion based on false information, and I'd like to present that with the stuff that was missing, so that people see a different way to interpret it, and then I leave it up to you to interpret it how you feel, given this extra information that wasn't in there in the first place, originally. William Ramsey Investigates. He's cool. I haven't seen him in a while. I was on the show a couple times, or maybe he was on mine and I was on his. Connor Murphy. Some things are here just for fun. Nigel Farage. Don't ask me why I started following that guy. I haven't seen English Star in forever either. Guns and Gadgets is kind of irritating. He does these clickbait titles and makes a big deal about shit and completely misleads people. Uriah Faber. I love that guy. That's the only reason the only reason why I ever paid any attention to any combat sport was because of Uriah Faber. And it was, what was the original one? I'm going to get it wrong right now. I usually know it all the time. Let me see. No. Was it WBC? I can't remember. Where did Uriah Faber start? Because somebody argued with me about this, and I know that they were fucking wrong. Like, he wasn't in the. I was like, yeah, he was. He was the WBC. I think it was. I think that's the right WC, whatever the fuck. Because that's where I first saw him, and he wasn't. Uriah J H. Is it just Uriah? I forgot. Yeah, Uriah. Don't give me a bunch of bullshit. I didn't ask about the fucking Real Extreme Cage Fighting, WEC. There we go. Yeah, so WEC, he becoming the face of WEC. And people said, argue with me because they're so fucking, they're either too young or too stupid, and they argue the wrong things all of the fucking time, which is a joke. When somebody, like, I lived through it, dude. I was ordering WEC when my girlfriend at the time was working for like Time Warner or something. We had every channel, which I didn't really watch any TV anyway, but sometimes I like to be misinformed by the Science Channel and the History Channel, so I would watch those for a little bit and maybe catch some X-Files here and there. But for the most part, I didn't really watch TV. So it says he quickly branched out to fight for the King of the Cage before eventually becoming the face of World Extreme Cage Fighting and a global MMA star. Well, yeah, he eventually made it into the UFC, but the WC was there, and I remember watching this in like 2007 or 6 or whatever when I was in Florida, and I found out that he was like the same height as me at the time, the same weight, and I was, when I say training, I was weightlifting. I wasn't training like scrambling around or anything like that. I wasn't doing that, but I was like, yeah, well, that's cool. So of course I was gonna like the guy even more because he fought at my height and weight. So it was kind of cool. So yeah, the only reason, and then when he went into the UFC, that's why I started paying attention to that. And then I liked the tap out guys, Mask, and then the whole thing that happened with Charles. It was pretty tragic. So that was the only anchors that I actually had when it came to like the UFC. Was Uriah, and I didn't even pay attention to the Ultimate Fighter, like, drama, real, what do they call it, reality TV things that he did against him, him and Cruz having different camps and competing against each other and all the bullshit. Like, I didn't care about all that. I cared about him fighting. And I remember watching the Jose Aldo fight because I had ordered that one. I had friends over, and it was just, he was just chopping him down like a freaking tree the whole time. Jose Aldo just with the freaking low kicks to the shins the whole goddamn time. It was boring and irritating, but he was showing the respect to Uriah that he didn't want to get in close to him because he knew he'd fucking lose. So, yeah. And it was also, I think didn't Jose Aldo kind of get one of those bendy legs one time? Maybe he didn't. I know that happened with McGregor. And it happened with, what's his name? The piece of shit bald guy who I don't care about. He also boxed recently. That douchebag. He got the wobbly leg. Both bones breaking. I think the same thing happened to Aldo later, but maybe I was wrong. I thought Joe Rogan had a stroke when he started calling him Jose. Because I'm like, you don't pronounce the J like that. It's Jose. And then come to find out, I guess in whatever fucking Portuguese or whatever shit language his name is from, it actually is a hard J. Speaking of hard J's. It's cool that he's still doing stuff though. Kinda, sorta. He should be getting more attention though. 15,000 subscribers. I mean, this is fucking Uriah Faber, man. Maybe it's because of inconsistency in his posts. I don't know. He's a good dude. I like him a lot. No homo. All right, here we are. Let's get it going now, kids. We got some people coming in now, and yay, and all that good stuff. Maybe not though. I'm not sure what happened. we have this. I think I missed a bunch of them back here. Let's start with the Ellison thing.
This is the Ellison family, a family whose company, Oracle, holds major contracts with the U.S. military and intelligence agencies. This is the same family that just purchased key nodes of influence in American media, including CBS, 60 Minutes,
With that Barry Weiss bitch.
It's MTV, Nickelodeon, Paramount Pictures, Paramount Plus, while also securing a major stake in TikTok, all to control the flow of information in Israel's favor after Benjamin Netanyahu called American media
Fucked
the
everything
eighth
up.
column in Israel's war. The Ellison family also donated millions to Donald Trump's campaign and at the same time millions more to the IDF, also known as the Israel Defense Force. But how is this possible? One family with deep ties and an obvious allegiance to Israel and its military now wields this much power over American media.
Which is crazy because his son looks like he could pass as an Araya. He could pass as Aryan.
They decide what we see, hear, and talk about, and they gained it all by playing us against each other. While Larry Ellison funded Trump's campaign, his son David Ellison funded Biden's. No matter who wins, the Ellison family wins, and Israel gets its way.
We have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are in social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is
I think this guy is Mikey from the cereal commercials. He said the Jewish version of that, or the fake Jewish version of that. He likes it. He really likes it. Like, I don't think he's really the brain behind anything. He just is the spokesman, like everything else. Hey, the corporatocracy banking cult has chosen you, Mr. Likhood, Mr. Terrorist organization group person. You're going to be the spokesman. You don't have any teeth. Daniel, Barry, whatever the fuck her name is, but the Danielle Weiss on the West Bank, the crazy-eyed old lady, I think she has more power than this guy. I think she's more gets her hands dirty up to her elbows in child blood than this guy. Not to say that he's a saint. I just think he's a fucking tool bag.
TikTok. TikTok, number one.
He looks like a white monkey. Or a bald monkey, I guess I should have said. Speaking of, we went through. I don't think we did that one yet. There's a couple I skipped over yesterday.
Just a second. What are you doing?
Just carry on.
Stacy, I have the belief that you may be in possession of.
Look at guys. If you miss it the first time, he says something, but you want to catch it both times. You have this incompetent fucking immigrant that they made into a police officer. Can you say Reconstruction era of the United States a little? But this is in the UK. If you don't know what that means, they made illiterate fucking Negroes into judges just to fuck up their society in the South. Look behind him. And he's representing the police, right? Well, those guys without the vest behind him are also police. Look at their reaction to this guy fumbling and bumbling. Pay attention to that. Look in the background. Look over to that guy's shoulder and look at this guy, but mostly on the right-hand side. Look at his hand.
Drug.
Oh,
Yes, I got the belief that you may be in possession of drugs.
He turns his back.
Stop being rude and
that's-
just listen to him.
So the woman, fucking bitches, right? Stop being rude to the nice tyrant with the bald head who's having a hard time thinking. Why is it? What is it that is this might be one of those cases where you have to look at the birth control issue. Is the birth control pill making her signals cross? Hey, you big mean boyfriend of mine who's being harassed by a tyrant who's stupid. You better be nice to that tyrant who's stupid. Like, she's turning on him. What is wrong with women, dude? Is that really what it is? Is it because they're on birth control and it's screwing up their brain and their signals? Is that what it is? 'Cause the cops can't even handle it. He walks away. These are all, the body language on this guy is like so apparent. First he's doing this, and then he rubs his eyes and he turns his back, and then he walks away from the guy because he's embarrassed for himself because he's associated with this guy.
That's why I want to search you.
I want to search you. I want to search you. Oh, okay. Fucking weirdo. Blank stared freak.
What you search, man?
I want to search you under section 23.
Yeah, can I have your name, please?
Say calling number, Michael.
My colon up is 08387. 08387.
Where are you based?
I'm
Where are you based? You definitely aren't based, bro.
Longside police station.
And what do you want to do search, man?
I have the reason to believe that you may be in possession of a drug.
The absolute state of England in 2026. You get stopped and searched by some random African that can't speak English, doesn't know the law, and doesn't actually know why he's stopping you. And to tick it off, the policeman in the background is even embarrassed for him.
What are you doing?
Just carry on.
State it. I have the belief that you may be in possession of
I'm just gonna play it a little bit long so you can see this guy.
drug.
A drug?
Yes, I got the belief that you may be.
I have a belief that you may be in possession of a drug. How do you know? Who gave you that suspicion? Well, why are you under that impression? And who the fuck cares about drugs anyway? All it can do is fuck you up, and if you're selling to somebody else, then all you're doing is taking stupid people off the fucking chessboard. Awesome, good for you. Not all drugs do that. You know, some have benefits, especially fungi and things of that nature. And if you're not, you know what they say, or what I also say, is you can't bronze a turd. So you have to have something upstairs in the first place in order for something to expand, right? Or to see more of reality. You actually have to have a functioning gear system in here in order for that to happen. So you can, what they say, cast your pearls to swine. I don't like to use Jew books, but if you're utilizing psilocybin and you already have the potential and the capacity for like comprehension, and you have empathy and all the good things that indicate that you are actually created and have a strong connection with something like a benevolent creator, psilocybin is going to be beneficial to you. And this is the difference between why some people go crazy on acid. And it's the amount that's consumed and the frequency. And if they're taking psilocybin, mescaline, or something synthetic, somewhat synthetic, because it's still ergot, but it's made chemically, right? When it comes to LSD. And then it also has to do with environment, setting, and all that stuff. But if you are not a very connected, let's say you're not a real boy yet. You're a Pinocchio. You think you want to be one. You're not quite there yet. You don't really have the soul yet. But you want to be. I mean, it can bring that person there, but it also might not have any effect, and it might actually have a negative effect where other people would be happy and laughing on psilocybin, or let's say, and this person wants to go kill everybody because he wasn't meant to take that stuff because there's nothing there to expand. You can't bronze a turd. I think get right back to that same statement. Sometimes you'll find quickly who the real boy is and who the real boy isn't, just simply by how do they respond to something that's supposed to enhance and improve them. Does it go the opposite direction? Does it make them dangerous or stupid? Then maybe that's your indicator that they are not really like you. All by myself. That's what I feel like tonight. Jesus fucking Christ. Kind Schwartz. Nice. Black Sun. Nathan Waffen. All right. Let's get back into it. And we talked about this yesterday. That was fucking horrible, that story. Did we get into this one?
Was Alexander
Oh, yeah, we did
Hamilton
that one already. That was yesterday's.
The FDA just accepted a petition to irradiate raw enriched wheat flour with up to 30 kilograms of ionizing radiation to kill off E. coli and salmonella. For context,
They've been
3 to 4
doing.
kilograms
Hold on a
would
second.
be
Just. I'm not sure where this isn't already happening, but they've been talking about doing this. California, from what I gather, has been doing this ever since at least 2000. Was it 2006? Was that when Fukushima happened? Like the way that they were covering up people who, as a trend, even in 2006 online, were going into grocery stores and, putting their meters up against the milk that was produced in California, and they were getting a reading off of it. And a couple of, they go to the meat packages and stuff like that, and they would get a reading. So finally, they just started saying that they were irradiating everything to get rid of microbes and mites and, you know, quote unquote parasites and insects and shit like that. So they're irradiating your food because so they say, because they're covering up the fact that the radiation levels, the tolerable ones, you know, like, oh, this is the threshold and this is the safe limit. These people make these arbitrary limits and they say, well, you shouldn't be subjected to this much aluminum, or you know, this is a safe level, this is too much. Same thing with lead, same thing with arsenic. Like, there's no healthy levels of any of that shit. And the same holds true with radiation. Your body can be, you know, stress resistant against it if you're taking your essential nutrients and stuff like that. But why test it? Why put yourself in an atmosphere full of, or consume and hoping for the best that something doesn't happen, things that are irradiated in the first place? So when they couldn't maintain, and people were noticing this, the below the level that they said was safe, they raised the minimum thresholds to like 100% more, like double them basically. And I said, no, this is the safe limit up here. Go check this out. You'll be able to find information on this. Of course, if you go through and just read the AI Google shit, you're gonna get lied to. But if you look this up, you'll find it. And it was, from what I remember, it was kind of centered around or focused around California at the time. And that actually might have been, when was Fukushima? I'll find out. Daiichi number 3. Has 2 eyes, right? Is it like that? Or is it 2 eyes at the end? I don't know. No, that's not working. Okay, let's see. Okay, so it's 2011. So I got it wrong. It was after I'd already come back from living in Florida, and I was working at the Electricians Union in upstate New York just before I moved. Then the Fukushima thing happened. They said it was a 9.0. They also that's changed. The history has changed on that, because they said it was a 6.8, and that it happened in the ocean bed, which is just as easily could have been done with, you know, small charges being applied to actually cause that to happen, or it could have been a strikeout on its own. But here's what's interesting: why was the Stuxnet virus? And they don't talk about that in the same sentence here. Let's see. I'm trying to type over with the microphone in front of my eyes. The Stuxnet virus did not cause, contribute, or impact the Fukushima Daiichi. It's a nuclear disaster. The two events are completely unrelated, though they are frequently linked and discussed. First of all, bullshit. Because why the hell did discovered? Yeah, it was highly sophisticated. Blah blah blah. Rounds nuclear enrichment facility in Nance did not blah 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 blah. So now they're gonna pull in that shit with Iran. Give me a fucking break. No. The Stuxnet, I'm going to say this to them, virus, it's a closed system. Okay? It's a closed system, so that means that nobody could have implemented the virus at Daiichi or at Fukushima from outside of the facility. You want to know who was doing and who does security for pretty much every. This is fucked up too, by the way, and this is why we are probably already nuclear blackmailed by the cult of child killers and the banking cult, the moon cult, if you want to call it that, the Jews, whatever you want to call them. I don't call them Israel, because Israel is just an outcropping of the banking cult, right? Israel is something that they want everybody to focus on. That's why I try to not, because I'm not falling into the trap of it's just Israel. No, it isn't. The Stuxnet virus was implemented, I'll say, 30 minutes before the earthquake. And it's going to tell me no. There's no truth to the idea that Stuxnet was already public knowledge. Was publicly discovered and exposed by cybersecurity. No, idiot. It happened at the fucking facility. No, it's not. See, this is of course AI lying to you, but this is not accurate. Just before the attack occurred, and yeah, 2006 is when the Stuxnet, they just pointed that out. I wish I didn't just do that. Let's see if I can pull up back up. I was reading the sidebar there. Is it going to be there? Stuxnet is discovered in 2010. Okay, there you go. It was blah, blah, blah. So what happened was, just prior to the so-called earthquake that could have been done by deliberate means, because Japan was being resistant to the banking cult's desires, as it were, and the IDF / Mossad, whatever you want to call them, Jews, do the security at multiple facilities all across the world. That's what they call nuclear blackmail. Nuclear blackmail is also when they sabotage things like they did in Fukushima. But the Stuxnet virus would have had to have been placed into the system from within inside the facility. Why they're trying to lie and say that didn't happen anymore when it was widely discussed closer to the time that the whole thing went down. Literally went down because it killed the cooling systems for the reactors because of the virus. So the cooling systems were shut down, and that compounded with what was about to happen with the earthquake. And then you had Daiichi reactor number 3, do what it did, and now it's like a giant dirty bomb. And all that together, plus you have to look and consider that they also had a bunch of spent rods not properly disposed or, taking proper care of, to where they were now feeding the reactor so it would continue to pump out radiation. And this shit was, I don't know if you know about radiation. You probably have heard about this maybe in 8th grade physics or whatever. It doesn't require a medium. That's an important aspect of radiation. And it was in California very quickly. Dan, it's pronounced California, similar to Commie Radio with their Oive Gaius Governor Polis that loves Gavin Newsom. Commie Radio. Oh, Camirado. I got it. What's up, Ravat? All right, let's get over to the rest.
Instantly lethal to humans. The petition was filed earlier this
Instantly
month.
lethal to humans, and they're considering it. So they're upping the ante as to how much they're adding. So could this be related to just more of a reason to I don't know, cover up a problem that they caused on purpose? Or is it because they're just flat out trying to really accelerate our horrific deaths? And by proxy, by food or contaminating the food and people being aware of it means that those food sources are no longer an option, as they're also killing off. I mean, I don't mean this literal, but I mean it financially, killing off farmers that aren't producing poisonous shit. Now, we'll talk about the tangerine guy here in a minute.
Now open for public comment. Apart from the immense radiation, it's worth mentioning what's already happening to your flour.
Right.
Conventional milling strips the bran and germ entirely, removing most of the fiber, magnesium, zinc, and B vitamins. A 2021 paper in the journal Nutrients links refined grain consumption to gut dysbiosis and systemic inflammation. To cut to the chase, what this means is the baseline product is already working against your microbiome. Now add in a high dose of iron.
Well, yeah, because it busts up your microphilia in your small intestine, which is where you absorb all your nutrients. This is what Dr. Glidden's been discussing too. That's why that's part. You gotta watch the video 12 Bad Foods. So just real quick, you go down here. Hey bud, how are you doing? Both states are full-scale neo-Bolshevik. So everybody is. All right. Click that. And then you would be going over to... I gotta move my fucking head just to show you this. All right, whatever. There you go. See, once you're a member, it'll just say members and you're logged in. Otherwise, it'll say log in and you can put your Solstice code into there. But go to Medical Insight page, watch all these videos, but start with the 12 bad foods. Okay. Now, the 90 essential nutrients and why they're important. This is a good video for that, but there's also the alternative whole food variety from Azure Well, and I have a coupon code for you for that of BB5 and a link for it in my videos here. It says Azure Standard. And then it tells you what the 90 essentials are. What they call it, the lion's share of that being the Fulvic-Humic energy blend, which is 70 of the 90 essential nutrients in your minerals, which is what most people are depleted because it's the hardest thing to make bioavailable. The nature does it in a very nice symbiotic, amazing way. And of course, the demon parasite, which is completely unnatural to life on Earth, got in the way of that, fucked it all up, and puts a bunch of poison on top of it. So it's really hard for those nutrients to get into the plants that you're eating or the fruit that you're eating in the first place. Vegetables, yada, yada. So yes, the Fulvic energy blend is essential, extremely essential. You'll get some of the 70 trace minerals in the whole food multivitamin itself. And then you have the Alaskan cod liver oil and the IP6 Supreme with inositol, which is magnesium, calcium, phosphorus, in a very rare form, which is called absorbable. They're not very absorbable when you're getting calcium carbonate and all this other shit. It's like eating chalk. It doesn't really absorb. All right, anyway, so there you go. And the BB5 is right there. And if you want to just go to my site, it's right there too. But let's get back to what I was talking about. The 12 bad foods. He discusses this and explains to you what it does to you. And he's discussed this on my show multiple times. Another really important one that I would look into is cholesterol. So you can reprogram the lies that have been programmed into us about cholesterol. And then the salt one, which is, there's essential minerals right here. Check that one out. Selenium and salt would be good ones to watch. And then weight loss and obesity is completely linked to essential minerals. When you're mineral deficient, your body will constantly trigger an impulse for you to continue to eat because you're not getting what you need. And I think I hear my daughter. I do. I have to get up and say hi. It's just going to happen. Why does this say 9 minutes still? Da fook. There we go. All right, so get that down. And like I said, remember, guys, you have about 6 hours. What is, I don't know, 4 hours left to use this Solstice coupon code for the annual to get 50% off. So it was only $225 a year. We've had quite a few people sign up. And then also you get, it's like 62 cents, 61.6 cents a day. And it locks it in for good. Right? So that's awesome. It's cheaper than what I pay. And let's go back to... Oh, you know what? I wanted to show you something too here. I'll get back into the doom scrolling here in just a minute. Dude, I like Bruce. Like he lost his son to a drug overdose. I'm not advocating that everybody do that, but he's a good dude, I think. Joan Rivers was Jewish. I don't know what this guy is, but I'm just saying he seems like a good person. Like even Reckless Ben Schneider is probably a fucking J, but if you're doing good, I'm not going to shit all over you. It's when you're doing bad and you're hiding behind what you claim to be. That's when it's a problem. Let's see. I just, I gotta go into history. This isn't gonna help me. I hear my daughter again. Yeah, I gotta say hi. I'm gonna be ignored by and large. Where the fuck is the history button, fucker? Jesus Christ. The fuck? There it is. No? This was very, very good. I just gotta get to where we were.
American. And our founders were.
Oh, that's funny because I actually shared this too. All right, so let's watch this real quick together. I'll get up and talk to my daughter in a second, but let's watch this real quick.
That I've been growing for the last 10 years, and I should be picking them right now, but I'm not. All due to a giant ag corporation who has been preventing me from doing anything with this crop. And this will actually be the second consecutive year that I'm losing this crop. And not to lose my entire year's hard work, I'm going to give it
The fuck
to
happened?
Central Valley and whoever would like to take any of it.
What the fuck just happened to the fucking full screen? Dude, what the fuck?
Farming in the Central Valley for more than 30 years.
What he's talking about to 10 a.m. information, these next
Whoever would like to take any of it.
So yeah, that's if anybody does it, and I said this on my post here, but this is in Fresno area, Reedley, California. If you go there and take this stuff and you take it advantage of him, I don't care if he says no because he's afraid of some sort of legality. You find a way to donate something to him that would be equivalent to the value of what you're picking, because the dude is losing this entire crop because of corporate undercutting. They can afford to lose money because money is a fucking fake thing. That what they want to do is they want control. So if they can put you out of business because you can't operate the same way, you're not going to constantly be funneled by Daddy Warbucks, Rothschild banking cult money so that you can do this to other people. You're going to fall off at some point and they're going to take over that market share, and what they decide to poison the food with will be everywhere at that point. So if you do things differently and you're not part of their cult group, you're going to be pushed out. And this is what's happening in real time here.
If you're interested in going to pick these nectarines for free, here's the information. It's June 29th through July 3rd, only from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And this is the address here, so go ahead and write that down. And just to give you a little bit more idea of what he's talking about here, in California, just a few large companies are controlling the entire packing market for things like nectarines. And what they do is when these smaller farmers go and try to make deals with businesses, these bigger companies come in and they undercut their prices and they eliminate the competition. So if they can't sell to anybody because they're being undercut, then eventually...
Like I says, when he tries to sell directly to retailers, the big players quickly undercut his prices to eliminate competition. They will find a way to eliminate your business, and they've done that to me. It says most growers end up contracting with one of the few dominant companies who handle packing, marketing, and shipping, but take most of the margin through fees, bundling, and reductions. Farmers have little transparency or bargaining power. This leaves independents like him vulnerable. He can't get a viable return after costs, labor, land leased inputs, etc. This aligns with wider problems in California's specialty crops, peaches, nectarines, etc., including recent cannery closures. Del Monte impacts on processing, but Mora's direct comments tie his nectarine specifically to actions by dominant ag buyer marketer. The giveaway is his workaround to save the crop and feed to the community. It's not a total market collapse for all his fruit, just this variety and crop facing the squeeze again. Ha ha ha. Boom boom. I bet you they weren't even smart enough to realize they made a joke there. Is the juice worth the squeeze? For your content, blah, blah, blah. Big ag blocking independent farming. Oh, who cares about that? This is all AI probably looks like when I'm looking at this. So he's just showing you AI bullshit. But anyway, yeah, compensate the guy if you're going to go there.
Eventually, they'll just go out of business. And unfortunately for this guy, it's his second year in a row this has happened.
Which also sucks because think about that. A lot of times people take loans. The farmers typically take loans out to start off their year that they then have to pay back with what they're able to sell the product for. So if they have a low yield, they're going to be underwater. If they have problems like this, they're going to be way underwater. And if they just eke out or go in the black, like eventually it becomes, what's the point? Why do it at all? And then they sell. And they could be, or the farmer's pride comes in where it's like, this was my great grandfather's business and it's been in our family keeping us, going for this long. There's no way I'm going to let them do this to us. And they hold off and then they end up losing their shit to freaking whatever, eminent domain or something like that. BLM bullshit. So if you're going to go to Fresno, if you're in Fresno County and you're going to Reedley, all I'm saying is anyone who picks these should be giving this man fair compensation as a donation so it isn't seen as direct to consumer. And why is this happening? Demon corporatocracy. This is a symptom of an upcoming famine. Be advised, they're making farming unsustainable. All right? All right. Shut up.
Ionizing radiation on top of that. More research shows irradiation at any level can further degrade B vitamins. So just to be clear, here's what's happening. Conventional milling strips the natural B vitamins, which are then added back with synthetic versions.
Right. They know exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. If they're destroying any type of nutritional value in something, it's just the same reasoning. It's like it's pasteurization methodology for other things that aren't milk. Does that make sense? They're going to strip all of the value out of your food. This is Codex Alimentarius in fucking full display. It doesn't matter how many calories you get in. And I hate when people say that food is just for calories. No, it isn't. If you don't know about your vital force and the raw materials it needs, you'll find out when you have plenty of bullshit food and you die of malnutrition and the diseases that come with it. And people have been doing that for a long time already, dying of, because they never associate it with that. If they see a little bit of meat on you, they're not going to think that you're dying of malnutrition or that you have a disease based on deficiencies in minerals. But that's where cancers come from. That's where your body's responding to something that is bad that it can't fix because it doesn't have it may have the tools and the know-how, but it doesn't have the material. So them stripping it out of all the food that you're going to be consuming and then making it so that you can only get their version of said product is all deliberate to cause you can almost call it like a shadow famine, because it won't look like there's no food. It just won't have anything in there to keep you alive.
This new irradiation
and of course we'll have plenty of poisons in its place.
Process would zap the enriched flour, which has the potential to degrade the added synthetic B vitamins. You can't make this up. The FDA just accepted...
Right, the FDA. If it's federal or if it's food and drug, it doesn't matter. It is a federal. Oh, yeah. All right. That was a good one. Thing for the most part. Oh, yeah, this is the birth control one we did yesterday. Maybe I should add that one in here because I talked about it. But yeah, let's play a little bit of this while I get up and say hello to my daughter, and then we'll come back to it. Just gotta find where we started here. I'm trying to remember.
First of all, that's not true for the most part. It depends on where you are in the world. It depends on what time period.
I want to get to the Trump stuff.
It depends. Revolutionary Guard Corps was actually an elementary school.
Here we go.
And you sacrifice those. URT, it's completely discredited. Mom Donnie, he was hanging out with a
Mom Donnie, and he says he's the first he's heard of this, but there's pictures of what they say is the mother of Mom Donnie holding a young child, or maybe he's somewhere in the picture. I can't remember the picture that much, but it's Epstein right next to her. And the idea was because he was like spreading his seed an awful lot, that not only are the Island Boys product, or at least a half product of Epstein, but so is Mandani, who is pretending to be a Muslim and doing all the things he can to push Jewish agendas and LGBTQ bullshit, like this fucking freak over here in the corner. Yeah, better off like that. No, I don't like that. What the fuck, dude? Why do they do that? Because of the fucking I don't care about the chat.
Trans person named Peppermint. This time I see Mom Donnie, he's hanging out with another trans person marching down the street for LGBTQ pride. Which, of course, remember, when there's a Palestinian protest, the ones that are not completely controlled by the Israel lobby in the first place, or the various Jewish community groups, there's always violence. There's always provocation. There's always a really negative media spotlight shown on it. But it's an LGBTQ pride event. Everybody gets involved. And the very Jewish New York, you know, New York City has the highest concentration of Jews outside of Tel Aviv, and with the exception of Tehran, Iran. Don't you think that a city that's basically run by the Jews, don't you think that they would maybe, if they really, you know, if they were, I mean, they're big supporters of this stuff, right? So clearly that's why these marches can happen and do happen and happen in large numbers and just grow and grow and grow. Because if this was run by the Muslims, do you think that Jewish New York would allow it? Like when that picture of the starving people made it onto the head of the front cover of Time magazine, and it was because of the Hamas journalists that controlled Time, even though Time magazine is run by and edited by Jews. Again, masters of the universe. They control everything, but they can't stop Hamas from getting news articles published. They can't stop the LGBTQ pride parades that Americans hate. But they're also behind them. They're really powerful, but they're really weak. They need help. See how this all works? It works actually so well as propaganda. They've got the Christians, at least the Lutherans, to support it. They got the Christians to support it, or at least people that call themselves Christians. Example of that. Christians marching the streets, at least they're supposed to be Christians, with crosses, with rainbow tape and trans tape. I love God, and God is non-binary. The irony is God is non-binary. God isn't a he or a she. God is a concept. God isn't masculine or feminine. God is both. And that doesn't mean God is trans. This is real low IQ stuff here. What does that sign say? Christianity suck. Well, it does suck. A lot of cocks. And it's a Jewish movement. And you just heard AIPAC admit that. It's not a Muslim movement. Look at this march. And it's so happy, right? Imagine if these were pro-Palestinian marchers, how that would be painted by Jewish media. Let's get a little bit of an update. I chose to use Alex Jones's new website as proof of this. The article originally is from Bloomberg, and Russia Today also published it. Of course, if you use RT, it's completely discredited. I'm going to use Alex Jones's website with the original quotes from the Bloomberg article, because for years, Alex Jones would never touch this subject. And now it's so blatantly obvious that Alex Jones now sounds like Ryan Gable. And this particular article, quoting Bloomberg, is about who bombed the girls' school in Iran. You might think that this has nothing to do with LGBTQ. Oh, but it does, because the LGBTQ movement, whether it was in Magnus Hirschfeld's Berlin in the 1920s, or it was embodied in the El Dorado, or it's whatever you just witnessed and listened to and saw there a moment ago. It's about desecrating the sacred. And the most sacred thing, the most sacred gift from God is, of course, the miracle of birth, the miracle of a child. And if you can corrupt that innocence, if you can pollute that purity, you get something real special from the monster, from the demon that you worship. And it ain't the Lord God Almighty. It's a little further south conceptually. And when you blow up children to start a war, and the country that you slaughter the children in are burning statues of a god of what has become child sacrifice, and you sacrifice those children to start the war, not only is that not a mistake, not only is that intentional, it is ritual magic justified by I didn't know what happened. We're not sure who did it. It was a mistake. Oops. In the midst of all this, we learned that the Israelis were giving America false information. I told you that on the show. It's been well known that the Israelis give us false information all the time. Apparently, we're too lazy to check it, and then we just launch missiles at whomever they tell us to bomb. In this case, it was a girls' school. 120 students between the ages of 6 and 13 were killed. 26 teachers on the opening day of the American-Israeli military campaign against Iran, which, by the way, was never a war. Then it was, then it wasn't, then we won it, then we didn't, 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 then we destroyed them, but they're still really powerful. It's the same kind of hypocrisy, the same kind of double standards, the same kind of contradictions and cognitive dissonance that you just heard about the masters of the universe who can't actually control the universe. The masters of the universe that control everything, but they don't control everything, but they do, but they don't. But they're also really, victimized, and they can't do anything, but they also exercise complete control. This is psychotic, and these people should be locked up in an insane asylum. According to Bloomberg, and according to the investigation ordered by CENTCOM, the probe found that in 2019, a U.S. intelligence analyst who was examining information about potential targets inside Iran discovered that a site in Minab that had been previously designated as a naval facility used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps was actually an elementary school, the agency's sources claimed. However, the updated information was missed. It never reached the U.S. military commanders because the analyst made it using a digital intelligence tool that wasn't connected to the official intelligence database that the Pentagon relies on to prepare its strikes. For the record, I don't even believe this report, even though it seems to confirm what I told you months ago, because it writes off the intentional slaughter of children in the midst of Iranians burning statues to a god of child sacrifice as just an accident that's written off to some unnamed intelligence analyst from 7 years ago. And of course, as the president said, things like this happen. And he really didn't know what was going on, right? Trump really didn't have any idea. For some reason, this video is not going to load as well. I'm having very severe internet problems today. I apologize if you're watching the video. I don't think it's the topic. I think that it might be the storms that had rolled through, although that normally doesn't affect the internet here in Japan like it does. I don't think I've ever had an internet outage. Let's see if the video will play now. Hopefully it does.
What do you think? Well, Mr. President, we've taken the investigation very seriously. When the appropriate time is right, whatever that outcome is, that'll be the time to divulge.
I mean, if you come up with the right answer, I don't think it's going to be us. I don't think it was us. There were a lot of missiles being fired at that time.
Yeah, except that they hit it twice. And except that the military, I don't know about the president, but definitely would absolutely have had to have known that these missiles were targeting this location. They would have had to have known, I would assume, immediately, unless AI runs it all. A bunch of tech nerds run it all. They would have had to have known that they hit this naval institution or this naval center, but it really wasn't. It was actually a school. They didn't verify that the target was destroyed. They hit it twice. Didn't verify it was destroyed. None of this makes any sense. Doesn't have to. Doesn't have to. Because it's all a game. It's all part of the ritual nature of war, of the sacrifice. And by the time the American government kind of hints around the idea of, well, I mean, it was us, but it was a big mistake from like 7 years ago. We didn't double check it. And then just ignore the fact that all the people involved in it who are criminals, the people that fired those missiles should be hanged. I don't care if they're soldiers with families. The people who gave those orders should be hanged.
Oh yeah, Ryan.
And you're going to sit there and tell me that Hegseth wasn't fully aware of this? This is the man who has literally advocated for the mass murder of all Muslims. The man who has argued for the ritual crusade against modern Islam. The man who has argued to slaughter every Muslim. The administration that has argued from the beginning and even before, which is how I knew to tell you that we would attack Iran.
This sounds like a very death cult, Jewish supremacy type of ideals there, don't they?
And I was fired from a radio station by fucking idiots and fucking zealots and real anti-Semites and a Jew. The administration that loves bombing Iran, that loves threatening the Iranians and murdering their people, even though there's plenty of Christians and Jews that live there too.
Did we talk? We didn't yet talk about the massive explosion that wiped out like a whole territory of Lebanon. And they said it was bigger than, or as big. They compared it to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which makes me think of Hellstorm and, the whole firestorm, hurricanes that whip up and just melt people into the freaking asphalt and boil the freaking water that they try to jump into for safety.
And they're not all Muslim. That they wouldn't target a school because they also blamed it on the Iranians. You're the ones that hit that school. No, this is all part of the ritual. This is all part of the psychological warfare. This is all part of the human sacrifice death cult drill.
Yeah.
And the Christian whack jobs who back them up. The Christians that justify it. Listen to what Donald Trump told a room of kids. I had never heard this before, but I just came across it. He told a room of children in the Oval Office that the Iranians wanted to kill them.
Just broke every record, and now we're going to take a hit because we have to make a journey down to take the nuclear weapon. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks. Remember?
Oh yeah, he even uses the same trope as Netanyahu, who's been saying that since when? Early 90s? 80s? Who the hell knows how long ago it was?
That beautiful B-2 bomber in, and we
beautiful B-2 bomber.
Their nuclear potential, it was obliterated.
Do you guys know what the Italian brain rot games are on Roblox? The one that looks like a bomber with like a crocodile head. That what he says is something about like killing kids. The incoherent gibberish is actually speaking of blowing up kids. I'll see if I can find the actual clip that talks about that later.
For those that are not aware.
Oh, and by the way, this is Beyond Osteo FX. So that's the magnesium and calcium. If for whatever reason, again, another reason why Dr. Glidden doesn't 100% agree with their practices. He doesn't like what they did during COVID, but he says these are super absorbable. So even though he has disagreements with the way they operate their company and some of the stuff that they decide to put into these products, they are still super absorbable. Anyhow, D3 is a steroid, basically, essentially. And if it's made with lanolin, that's sheep's wool. It's pretty gross. But this is the magnesium and calcium, and that's the Beyond Osteo effects in the bottle.
To a point where it would take them weeks to dig down, and we wouldn't let them dig down. We have our eyes on it all the time. But it was a very... So we would have had an Iran with a nuclear weapon, and maybe we wouldn't all be here right now. I can tell you the Middle East would have been gone. Israel would have been gone.
So far, sounds good. Even, I mean, the whole, Israel being gone isn't going to stop the banking cult because that's part of their plan. But, I don't know if Israelis think that they're safe there. I think their arrogance is going to quickly become silenced. The actual inhabitants there, and if it's not clear by now, and I wrote about this over 2.5 years ago in my book that they were always intended to be a burnt offering so that they could revitalize their victimhood mentality and have excuses for going full scale demon Samson option on whomever they decided to do so on.
Have trained their sights on Europe first and then us, because
that's insane.
They're
going to go against Europe. Dude, there's Muslims, Christians, and Jews living in Iran, and they are not a tent community. They're a very sophisticated, modern country. And they don't have, like, it's optional to cover, like, all these other things that people could talk about with them. Islam. It's not something that they cut off your fucking face or throw. There's the demonic people that throw acid in women's faces. But you have to ask yourself, is that really them? It might be. Yeah, sure. There's a lot of fucked up shit that happens with Islam and the crazy Mohammedans and all that shit. But also consider the type of, like, ISIS was supposed to be Islam and it's CIA and Mossad. So isn't it possible that there's also random actors out there that are doing things in the name of Islam that would be not accepted or wholeheartedly rejected by a lot of the people that follow that faith? That's not really... all that shit's bullshit. The whole entire Abrahamic death cult trio is bullshit. I'm not arguing for them. I'm just saying it's all about optics, right?
Oh, these are sick people.
No, the Jews are the sick people. The Jews are the ones with the Samson option and hundreds of nuclear weapons pointed at major allied cities as well as enemy cities. The Jews are the sick ones. They're the ones that have assassinated American presidents over nuclear weapons or nuclear technology, whatever it actually is. They're the ones that double tap schools and hospitals and destroy Christian communities. They're the sick ones. They're the freaks. They're the ones that want to obliterate Iran. They're the ones that have said alongside of the president that they are going to delete a civilization. Even the Muslims don't talk like that in most radical circles. We're going to obliterate a civilization. We're going to murder everybody, including the Christians and Jews and non-religious people that live in Tehran or any other part of Iran. And this is the problem when you have children who don't know any better, whether they're actually children or they're maybe young adults who don't know any better. These kids don't know.
The president's telling them this. Don't you think that's going to be make a pretty lasting impression in their minds? They're most impressionable at this age, and you have the president who's acting like grandpa here, telling them a horror bedtime story.
That people like Netanyahu were saying that the Iranians were going to have a nuclear weapon in 2 weeks since the 1980s.
80s.
American adults with pensions and paychecks and houses and cars who watch TV all the time, grew up with Fox News and CNN, they don't even know that. More brainwashing and assaults on children, whether they're subjecting them to LGBTQ, or they are bombing them because they don't have the right religion or the right skin color, or they have land that somebody else wants, or they're in the Oval Office and being told the Iran were going to slaughter you, they were going to murder you, they were going to kill you in 2 weeks.
Right. It builds off of that trauma that their younger parents, because they're younger kids, went through, that we went through in 2001 when they told us that Muslims had attacked the World Trade Center, when we know that's not true. But how many people actually believe the mainstream narrative, and how many of those had children, and how many of those are standing before the president right now getting that lie reinforced into their minds?
Makes you think about the whole 2 weeks to curb the spread. Remember that? Who do you think invented that? The same people that told you for 2 weeks they're going to have a nuclear weapon. 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Never happened. Is this all becoming clear for you yet? Hope that it is. I hope that I'm explaining it well. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I need to.
I see this. He's got a SMB7, I think it is. I've got the M something. It's the only difference being really, I mean, it's a little bit of an upgrade what he has, but you can also use a micro USB. So before I had the Rodecaster board, I couldn't put an XLR cable into anything, but now that's not an issue. This is a great mic. I don't know if I'd ever really need to upgrade unless I just wanted to show off or something, but I think this does just fine. But a different arm. I had a really crappy arm that was too weak to hold up this microphone here. And back in the day, I didn't really have the settings right because a freaking HP switch on the old computer I didn't realize was sabotaging my audio. So it was actually coming from the Logitech most of the times I was doing recordings, and it sounded really bad. But this mic here had a big I don't know, before I put it on this thing, I had like a heavy spring thing, so for the shock absorption when the vibration of your voice to kind of cushion that, and it was too heavy for the old arm. This one is just kind of jacked up. It would be nice to get a shorter arm like he has here. It'd be easier to pin up this stuff and all that good stuff.
Explain it even more simply. I say that sarcastically because I think the majority of this audience completely understands. We're sickened by it.
So his original recording came out like this. This isn't my broadcast. You can see it's all kind of the audio is fine, but it's not synced up with. He's freezing a lot. He's based out of Tokyo, just like I'm based out of Arizona, but yes, also the other way that word applies.
Unfortunately, our momentum, our sickening, our sick feeling that we have, this reaction that we have to all of this, these people are psychotic, this is idiocracy, etc. Unfortunately,
got a little bit more of this. I want to watch this too, up to about there.
Is going to be weaponized against us because there's never any context provided to things like, well, I think that the Jews who believe that they are the masters of the universe are actually subhuman. There's no context provided to that. It's just anti-Semite says Jews are subhuman. There's no context provided to the statements or the protests. Hey, the Jews are murdering children. The Jews are targeting kids. The Jews sacrifice children to their bloodthirsty demon god, whatever it is. That's just blood libel. People have accused the Jews of that for centuries. Why do you keep making those types of claims? Well, maybe because it's been true for centuries. Maybe it's because you're witnessing it happen in real time, in high def. You're watching videos of them actually do it. But the countries that burn statues to ball, they're just a bunch of ignorant, backward savages that live in caves and have sex with goats. Which in and of itself...
Right. The fact that they burned the statue of Baal, which is a child sacrificing, I mean, you could call it, that's a Molech sacrifice is the immolation of a child. It's the type of sacrifice. But when you're looking at the furnaces, there used to be a 7-slot furnace depiction in the pictures as well, where it would be a sacrifice of 7 children, and each one had like an opening, and then you see the traditional one where it's the outstretched hands, and then it drops into the fiery pit. And also, guess what? The priestcraft and the parents were made to eat the cooked flesh of their own children. They tell you about that?
Is an incredible piece of propaganda, because if I were to say, no, it's actually the Jews who are inbred, it's actually the Jews who have sex with animals, it's actually the Jews who are sexual deviants and perverts, it's actually the Jews who have the LGBTQ capital of the world, and they brag about it. But if I were to say those things, oh, that's just anti-Semitic. That's not even anti-Semitic. That's such a horrible thing to say about the children of God. Well, hey, asshole, we're all children of God.
Exactly.
We're all masters of the universe. I'm not your slave. I don't worship you, and you can't compel me to worship you. I don't even worship the Abrahamic God, so you can't control and manipulate me with that either.
Correct.
Here's another thing along the same lines, the idea of baptism. Oh, John the Baptist, and the Judeo-Christianity and baptism. It's all just a very Abrahamic thing. Like baptism is if anything is universal, baptism and cleanliness is the most universal thing spiritually, religiously in the world. It's literally every human being.
Monotheism isn't even, or a concept of a God in the first place is not original to those people. That came from your ancestors, and this is why it's so important to read Elie Wiesel. Do I have to do it? I think I do. Toasty! You have to read Elie Wiesel. You have to read the British Edda and Makers of Civilization and Race and History, and you'll find out that baptism was introduced by the sun venerators, your ancestors, the Gothic Aryans, who were the founders of Sumeria, Persia, the civilization builders all across what they call the ancient world. Monotheism, the belief in a benevolent creator. They tell us that we're pagans and are polytheists and all this other shit. That's deflection and that's projection. They take the concept of what becomes what lowercase g gods, meaning it's understood by the people who are celebrating heroes, real people who lived, and they venerate them after their death, and they say they're deified. Well, that's based on whose impression of what they're discussing and who's manipulating and going overboard with that type of veneration in the first place to give the impression that it's quote unquote idol worship or whatever. It would be the moon cult in those societies doing that in the first place and then turning around and calling other people pagans or polytheists when the people who are actually remembering their history and their heroes know damn well the difference between the benevolent creator or the monotheistic God. And this is all talked about in the Scythians, with the Scythians too. And I think we went over a little bit of this with the Azure Logos 8.1 and 8.2. But anyway, like I was reminding you that Ryan Gable will be on eventually, I think probably next week. I had a lot of work to do this week. And then I remember Friday, 11 a.m. Mountain Standard, which will equate to Pacific time, 11 a.m., which is the 2 o'clock East Coast and 1 p.m. Central. Dr. Glidden will be on Friday instead of tomorrow. Okay. And you have about 3-ish hours left to use the Solstice coupon for 50% off on the annual. SOLSTICE. Use the link in the description if you want to do that. We'll meet you on the other side.
Has conceived of this idea. Whether you're living in the Amazon or you're living in the mountains somewhere in Tibet.
I gotta get Ryan. I gotta get a mind like Ryan to read the British Edda. I gotta see if I can find a physical copy to send him. I am going to be working on that restoration with my commentary book as well. I just would like to have a little bit of man, it'd be great to get like some sort of book stipend to do that, because it's going to take a long time and it's going to take me away from doing other things that would generate income for the family. So that's why I've been hesitating on that. I had to do other things first.
He has conceived of the idea of water cleans you. And if water cleans dirt, water also cleans things like spiritual impurities. If anybody knows this, it's the Buddhists. It's the Shintoists.
Well, he says Buddhists, but first of all, Buddhism is a deception just in the name. The Brahmayanas, or the people who actually introduced that before they became materialists, the bad seed moon cult, again, interrupting the actual flow of what those teachings were supposed to mean. That, again, was Araya, which is plural and singular. You can put the N on the end if you want to, but the royal Araya were the noble class of the Goths.
Because they love a good, clean space. Let's look at the great American...
And the rest of the Indians like to roll around in shit. So, compare, contrast.
Fair, or whatever this was. This video has gone viral. Someone filmed inside of one of the baptism tents, or the baptism tent, if there was.
I think one of my neighbors in upstate New York had one of these pools outside.
More than one. This is what it looked like. Here's the baptism pool.
Yeah, and then if just in case you didn't realize that, the thing that we think is separate from America, this idea of Israel, it's becoming more overt than previously, but it's always been an extension of that which controls America. And you can trace it all the way back to Bank of England, City of London, and the Rothschilds, and prior to that, the Swassos. But that international cult of child sacrifice, Jewry, whatever you want to call that, financial spell, the spell of money, their money, that you have to have theirs, and they're the ones who are the controllers of all that. That's not a really good place for the rest of the world to be in, when they're the ones in control of whether or not you make it or break it, right? That's not the best place to find yourself. But to think that there's any difference simply because there's a different paint job on America than there is on Israel, well, you keep seeing these flags next to each other and there's a baptism going on. It's also doing that Judeo-Christian bullshit psyop into your brain too, right?
This tent, they've got
evangelical Christianity, which is exactly what Paula White represents. And I told you about the foundations or the roots of that being in Frankism.
As you'll see when the camera zooms in here, an Israeli flag and a menorah on stage next to the Christian cross and the sash that they put on it. I thought that was usually purple for royalty. It's white for purity. This is how they're baptizing people in the Trump administration. I guess this is what the Great American Fair is. It's really just a fair for Israel, because those flags are interchangeable, right? The American flag is the Israeli flag. This is, as I see Joe Ryder, and I think maybe Fleck said this earlier, a few people in the chat have said this, this is an abomination. You don't have to be a Christian to know this. This is an abomination. It is disgusting. It is repulsive. It is something that I have a hard time looking at and not, like, I honestly feel in my throat that I could vomit. It's so disgusting. And it's disgusting not even so much because of some spiritual or religious viewpoint that I have, but from an American history point of view, which all of you know was really my first love and the only thing in school I was actually good at. From an American history point of view, for better or worse, whatever that history is, this is not our history.
That's another thing we have in common. I was especially in college, a student in Western Civ.
This is not America. America is not an Israeli colony. We were a British colony. Say what you want about the Bank of England. Say what you want about the Church of England. We were a British colony and primarily a Christianized colony. And then as things began to grow, concepts and ideas began to grow. The idea of religious freedom, which is, I'm pretty sure, why pilgrims originally came to the eastern part of the United States that we call the United States today. The eastern part of this land came because they were escaping the persecution of the church, which is doubly ironic because, oh, it's a Christian nation. Literally, before there was even discussion about, like, what is this land going to be, people literally came here
to escape the Holy See, the Holy Roman Empire. They were Protestants, and the only way they could actually communicate and function and discuss things outside of the church purview would be in the Masonic lodges, and that's why people, oh, they're Masons. Like, that was co-opted too, and it was co-opted in the late 1700s by Weishaupt. Jacob Frank had a part in that, and I've written about that in my book, The Meeting at Offenbach. They changed and altered and centralized the teachings and what actually informs the Freemasons into what the Lyrian Kabbalah talks about. The whole thing was altered, and reading Proofs of a Conspiracy by John Robeson will give you the insight as to when it was co-opted by these pieces of shit funded by the Rothschilds and the Royal Societies and all the reading groups and all that stuff at the same time. All the socialite stuff where the noblemen would hang out. And also, there is another component to that. Hold on, let's let this play for a second, though.
To escape the church. So not only was it not really Christian per se, it certainly wasn't Judeo-Christian.
Oh yeah, Samuel Morse. He talks about it in the 1830s. The guy who wrote, who did the telegraph, Morse code, all that stuff. He warned people in a book about the Jesuits coming over as Roman Catholics. They were trying to get away from these people. The whole point and purpose of getting away and establishing some place that was, had religious freedom and you're in a, what do you call it? Oh, what is that? What is that word that I use? It's a phrase. That's a term. Oh yeah, self-determination. That's not something that you're allowed to have in the Holy See. And the Reformation and then the Counter-Reformation War spearheaded by the Jesuits has never ended. And when you know Jesuits are cryptos and one and the same to the same cult, and you understand that the three Abrahamic cults at the tippity top are all like-minded with the same objective to subjugate, suppress, and oppress the people. Samuel Morse was telling us, well, our religious freedom is going to backfire on us because they're just sending people in here, taking advantage of our openness, and then they're going to terraform our place, and it's just going to be the same type of despotism that they had tried to escape, re-establishing itself in America. Ta-da!
And those concepts of free speech and free press and free... There's a lot more to American history than just 1776. You're going to need to study before that. You're going to need to study about 100 years before George Washington. You're going to need to study a lot more than just whatever the bullet points they want you to know to pass the test for history class. As Jackie says...
Right. Stand with, stand against, or stand aside.
Chat, an American fair with foreign flags. Sadly, I don't think many Americans would think anything of it. You're right, Jackie. Most Americans wouldn't think anything of it, except that this is great. This is actually what it means to be an American, flying the flag of a foreign country. Yes, we rebelled against taxes over stamps. We rebelled against taxes over tea. We rebelled against the British authoritarian rule that in all cases whatsoever, under the Intolerable Acts, anything that the British Crown deemed intolerable was illegal. We rebelled against all of that. We famously threw tea into the harbor.
And that wasn't what set everything off either. They made the currency of the Americas, they basically made it illegitimate to the debts that they needed to allegedly pay, that they allegedly owed, I guess, to the British Crown. So it wasn't so much that it's just like now, like if they try to change everything to CBDC, or they tell you that you can't transact in anything besides digital because they're afraid. This is actually written into the Patriot Act. During whatever emergency they decide to declare, there's only certain types of transactions that are allowed, and they're monitored because they don't want you funding quote unquote terrorists. So if you're trading in silver and gold, the penalty, I believe, during that time of crisis is potentially being executed. Yeah.
We also amassed cannons and cannonballs and guns and bullets, and we stored them, and the British marched to what would become the Battle of Lexington and Concord and attempted to confiscate that material. And somebody fired a shot, and that started the American Revolution. If it wasn't started in Boston during the Boston Massacre, which, funny enough, only started because some British soldier just didn't want to pay for a haircut, I believe. And if he would have paid for the haircut, there might not have been any bloodshed in Boston that night. It's funny how history works like that. But it was because of the taxes on stamps, the taxes on tea, the intolerable acts, the confiscation of your right to defend yourself with the weapons that are equal to those who supposedly rule or guide over you. None of that has anything to do with Israel or Jews. There's also a projection within this this defensive Jewish Israeli propaganda about how people like myself are obsessed with Jews. No, I'm obsessed with America, and my country has been occupied and hijacked, and my history has been polluted and distorted by Jews. So if that's the enemy at the gate, yes, I'm concerned with the enemy at the gate.
Right. Especially with a male mind or a parent, a dad, we are problem solvers. We are trying to minimize threats, potential dangers to our families at all times. When we see how daunting this problem is and how it's woven into the fabric of everything that people just take for granted and trust, well, then of course it's going to nag on us. It's going to make us constantly working our gears in our head trying to figure out how to solve problems, because that's what we do. We solve problems and we minimize dangers to our family. When there's no clear path out of that except for more people being aware of this, and the hope there being that when enough people are aware and they're not afraid that they're standing alone against something that's very powerful, that good things will affect a change and we'll work together as a community against the common enemy of the parasite. If we let loose on that and we start talking about, puppy dogs and ice cream, that's fine for a release and, a distraction from time to time. But when there's a pending issue, like you don't, this is literally an emergency time situation. You're in a burning building essentially, and you have very little time. And the prioritization has to be about the impending danger that's occurring at that moment. So yes, we would love to talk about other things. Yes, we would love to discuss other things. But those other things that are out there to discuss most of the time are distractions from that very thing that's the biggest problem. And it's set up that way intentionally. Throw a bunch of crap at them. But at the very root of all that is still the same entity, group, force, supremacy cult behind it all. So no matter what type of mental gymnastics or round and round we go, we're still going to end up at the same starting point, or what is at the source, because when you go and you address the source, it's the most efficient way of diminishing or the problem. And so if it's always them, and it's always their doing and their manipulation and their working, and you can figure it out and you can trace that out and you can show people, yeah, the conduct does go back to the same thing, because that's the nature of the game. That's the reality of the situation. We would love it not to be the truth. We'd love none of this to be happening at all. We could talk about other things. We could be happy. Talk about things that makes us, and positive things. It's better for your soul to do that. You don't get as old looking. This shit wears on you. And it's dangerous to talk about sometimes. Probably all the time now. Don't you think other people would... There's the sense of adventure type of danger that makes things fun, like roller coasters and skydiving and rappelling and stuff like that. But then there's also the dangers that you do because you're doing something with the mind of there's a higher good at the end of this, and we can't allow ourselves to be scared away from protecting the innocent. We can't be scared away from addressing the issue, because then we become the silent slaves of something that we never signed on for. We were born into this prison. That's a different type of taking a risk. It's a duty because of who we are and what we are. We are all little Jesuses here. We're all God's children, the benevolent creator. Those of us who have that connection are anyway. And that means we have a duty and responsibility and a purpose. And if we ignore that, and enough of us continue to ignore that, bad things are going to happen, because that would also be the natural course of things. So what's better? Letting things bite you in the ass, sneak up on you and your family, catch you guys off guard, cause more harm and havoc and chaos because of the unknowing of the situation and the lack of preparation? Or do we, until we get a chance and are allowed in the freedom to actually think and do other things, should we not just continue to address the issues? And again, it'd be great if that wasn't the issue. I don't like talking ill of others. I don't like having to make that my main focus. And I don't really do that either. I talk about the things that it affects. And then you have to then say, well, what's causing all that? And then you explain that part. And what keeps us all stuck in here? The spell of money, their money. Because they're still going to be able to control every other aspect of freeing yourself if we continue to utilize or whatever they can make scarce on us. They're taking territory simply to be able to control the output and who receives natural resources like water, which we all need to survive, and they're poisoning all the stuff that is available while they steal away fresh water. They're also, if you don't know this, the Rothschilds almost directly operate PG&E and a lot of the other utilities, electricity companies. And if they don't own it through them, they own it through something other thing or some other branch of BlackRock and yada yada. So that's all them too. And then the last one would be the fuel. Whatever is fact or fiction about fuel shortages, we know that there's an abundance and they don't let you touch it. They want to make interdependence between this country and that country, which they also control, and they control the industry. That way they can control and make something that's abundant look scarce. And if they're in control of it, it doesn't matter if it looks scarce or not. If people believe it is or isn't, they still control the transfer and the refining of it. So just because you know doesn't get you more of the thing that you need. So if only the military that wants to kill you, and they've trained to make you out to be the enemy, and you don't have things like water, fresh food, and fuel, how do you think that fight is going to go? Mind you, they have the abundance and they have the fake prospect of endless money because they just generate it versus us. We got a lot of things going against us. We have to simplify the times again. We have to work together. And this common cause is all of our survival and a safer life for our children and their children. So to me, it's the most noble cause. I almost called my last book that. It was one of the titles that I was floating around. Most noble cause was to protect the innocent. So yeah.
I wonder if there was anybody during revolutionary times who said, you guys are real obsessed with the British. Why are you so obsessed with the British?
Yeah, the loyalists said that.
All you do is talk about British.
And really, it's not really British, right? Because who's actually controlling that? And who was? King George III was heavily invested into, and they do this on purpose, just like giving stock to congressmen so that the lobbyists, they're giving away, IPO and all this other shit to the congressmen so that they have a vested interest in making sure that industry that they have these stocks in does well. So they did a similar thing with King George. So if you get away from the quote unquote king, but then you have a guy like Hamilton who influences you to become indentured to the very entity that actually operates King George. King George it's not going the other direction. The finance or the financier is the one that's in charge and has been since William of Orange, then you didn't really change. You didn't better your situation. You just, on paper, you have a new master.
British. Just give it a break already. Why are you so obsessed with these people? Well, they were kind of the enemy at the gate, so... And I could ask you the same question. Why were people so obsessed with the Germans? In fact, they're still obsessed with the Germans. Germans, Nazi, German, Nazi, German, Hitler. I mean, the History Channel's absolutely obsessed with Hitler. Every other show is Hitler.
Right. People used to call it the Hitler Channel because of the big H.
At least it was when I was growing up. On the Discovery Channel, it's like 40% of shows Hitler. They're the ones obsessed with Hitler. They're the ones obsessed with Nazis. They're the ones obsessed with Germans. They're the ones obsessed with all. No one's obsessed with.
They're obsessed with making sure that you believe what they believe about these types of things. They're obsessed with constantly beating it into your head that when you hear the word German, you already start to feel a little icky, and then you hear the word Nazi in the term, and you think of a really dark. They call them Antichrist. They say that about Napoleon. It's funny that Jews would be, passing around that term, the Antichrist. There were 3 Antichrists that came in, and blah, blah, blah. This one's Napoleon, the other one's... It's all nonsense, obviously, but a lot of people have that knee-jerk reaction to even hearing something about that. How do you think that makes people who have Germanic ancestry feel? They probably shrink away from that and say, well, no, I'm an American. But then they lose all of that history, that rich history of being Goth and being Germanic and being Scythian and all these other things that were noble and always since the dawn of what we know of time, as far as the last 5,000-6,000 years, maybe after a cataclysm, whether that was induced or natural, that we've been fighting the noble fight against this evil and showing people the way. That's why they hate us and we're the priority for them to destroy, because we show other people the way. We've been bettering lives in all the places that we've created civilization in the past. And regardless of ethnicity, we were accepted and well liked and appreciated for having risen to power and innovated, taught agriculture, all the things that benefit their quality of life. There wasn't a hatred between the ethnicities back then. They loved us. It took a whole lot of Jew parasite whispering in the ear for that to turn. And a whole lot of bullshit and a whole lot of writing or rewriting of history for us in the more modern times, the last 250, 300 years, start to feel like our history was something that it wasn't, that it was wicked, that it was evil, that there were no heroes, because everything has the Semitic poison spin to it because of the way that they've written it to appear. They've taken away all the heroes, the nobility. They don't want those to be good examples that would inspire you. Remember the whole communist thing, right? Make the art ugly. Don't inspire. We've talked about how vehicles have taken a nosedive. They used to be works of art on 4 wheels. They used to be made out of solid material. They weren't pieces of plastic with digital locks on them that you can't even change your own brake pads without, breaking a $2,000 digital lock code. That's insanity. And to think that there's some sort of benefit toward having you being constantly monitored inside your own vehicle, that's a prison on wheels. It used to represent freedom. Now it's enslavement. Very silent driving. Worrying about every little thing that you're doing. Constantly being like somebody who is looking for a way to twist something that you're doing into the negative. invisible, but it's the same presence and weight of them basically staring at you while you're driving. It's oh yeah, sorry, with the blood pressure, rap on you and monitoring every other little aspect of your. Are you sweating? Are you this? Are you that? Why are you shifting in your chair? What's going on over there? Why are you adjusting your seatbelt? You're uncomfortable? Are you on drugs? What's up with your eyes? And feeding all that to not only like agencies of evil, but also your insurance. I think if they start doing that, insurance should be a complete null and void thing, because it's only going to be utilized as a weapon against you to make it very expensive for you to move around. And because isn't that the ultimate goal? And with Flock and all these other things, they know exactly what your patterns are, where you're going. And if they're going to continue to report and ticket and build points on your license for a bunch of bullshit, then that's another way of them stealing away your right to drive, to move, to travel, to get things done. All the normal things that we have every right in the world to do should not be monitored by especially this group of people, these demonic pieces of shit. I don't understand how there hasn't already been an uprising simply based on that. Like, what is more, what feels more like freedom than driving with the wind in your face, or, just going across like I do a lot, across the desert or across the country. I've driven cross country 5 different times, and just going and doing things, having fun, enjoying the experience, listening to your music or podcast, or being there with family to experience an adventure and make memories. Going in Grandpa's Winnebago to Florida. Like, why would we give all of that up and feel like we have to sit very still, good posture, make sure, straight backed, 2 hands on the wheel? What are we doing? And you think that's going to be good enough for them? These are diabolical minds behind this. It's not. It's just like when you're in basic training. I don't know if everybody else has been through basic training, but if you're in basic training and you don't learn this ahead of time, you might lose your shit a little bit. It's meant to set you up for failure. So they're not. It's not like it's a fairness thing where if you do all the right things and all the good things and you comply and you're subservient and all this other stuff, that you're gonna not get beaten, as I used to call it when they make you do push-ups or whatever. The whole point is to not have any reason. There's no reason. There's no rhyme or reason behind the beatings. It's chaotic in that sense. Regardless if you're trying your best, you're not going to please the devil. It's going to be deliberately skewed. And if you're trying to argue, no, that's not what I was doing, you're missing the whole point. You're wasting your energy on the wrong thing, because they don't care, and they don't. It wasn't about you being a good boy. It was about beatings will come. And you can either buck it or you can try to please. Either way, you're still getting the beating. Same holds true with whether or not they're going to call you an anti-semicolon or a racist. Anti-Semitic.
Jews, except for Jews that think they're the masters of the universe and are literally the embodiment of God. They believe they are
especially when now everybody knows that that's who I am. And you are. Right? We're the embodiments of God. In a sense. If we accept our mission and do it started off as a joke, but then there's a truth to this, right? We can't lose sight of this. We didn't need somebody to come back and be the only one. That's why the Jews wrote that off, so that there couldn't be more independent uprisings against their control. Same thing with the Romans. They didn't want that. They wanted to make it one guy, and if you try to be like that guy and claim that you are of that same ilk, then that's blasphemous and you should be burned and all that other shit, right? They by your own people. They don't want independent leadership that can bring people to a better way of life. to be cropping up everywhere or getting together and understanding that this is our duty from our Creator. The whole purpose that we're here in the first place is to basically be fighting that adversary, and not just fighting it, but eventually, I don't know, solve the problem. I think we're about 2,000 years overdue, because if anything about the Jesus story is true, he gave them the last ultimatum. He was born in an area where he wasn't looking for the Irishmen. He wasn't looking for the Scotsmen. He wasn't there to address the Germans. He wasn't there to address the Scythians. He wasn't there to talk to the people in Denmark or frickin' Tokyo. He was there to specifically talk about the demonic presence on the planet, call them out, and give them the last change your ways speech. Either you change your ways or that's it. No more bullshit. We're not putting up with your shit anymore. And they said, oh, okay. Killed them. And then that was our cue, because we are of the same ilk of that particular, whether it's a symbol, however way you want to look at it. You can look at it in the positive way when you say, the kingdom of heaven is within, greater things than I shall you do. He's telling you, he's leading by example and telling you to do the same. Not wait for someone to come back. Oh, why does God let all this stuff happen? You're missing the point. You're the thing that God sent here to make sure that doesn't happen. And you're not doing anything to stop it. You get it? Like, we are the soldiers. We are the warriors, the noble warriors. Not soldiers. Soldiers more like a mindless thing. Noble warrior. Warrior is not out there seeking a fight, but they're there to make sure that justice occurs and that people aren't being abused. That's the warrior. The warrior is if any of the talks that you've ever seen with me and Stefan Verstappen, or if you've read The Art of Urban Survival, he talks about the warrior. That's from the Chinese perspective, which is also very good perspective. And come to find out, our ancestors also heavily influenced Japanese and Chinese people. You could say they're Scythians, you could say they're Gothic Aryans, you could say whatever you want. Still the same group of people. And they heavily influenced them.
Physical children of God, which is the accusation that the rabbis and the Pharisees made to Jesus in the book of Matthew. And they said, we are charged as being the Son of God. And Jesus said, well, I'm not the Son of God. That's not what I am. I am here to show you that people do not need your approval. And they don't need your temples and your institutions.
Your bullshit.
To obtain salvation.
No middleman. No middleman necessary. That's what a merchant is. That's what a broker is. Not only the fact that they make you broke because now you're paying a higher price so that they take their cut from the middle, but like retailing, it's the middleman. It's not direct to anything. The middleman is what this whole entire cult is based on. And if we go back to The New History of the Jews by Eustace Mullins, to Habru Shagaz, the cutthroats and bandits, merchants, thieves on the road, which kind of sounds more Khazarian, right? The thieves on the road. Very, very interesting stuff.
Projectionism. They accused Jesus of what they believe, and what they believed was that they were the physical incarnate children of God, and that nobody else mattered. Everybody was insignificant and inferior. Everybody was a slave. Everybody was second class or third class. Everybody was subhuman. They're the masters of the universe. You're the slaves. That's what the rabbis believed. That's what the Pharisees believed.
Meanwhile, they had absolutely no accomplishments or achievements to show for themselves, so they created a false history. It made Moses a superhero, Superman type character. He was the Ubermensch. And it was all fabricated based off of stories of our ancestors that they were reading in the Alexandrian library when they were concocting their bullshit history so that they could do one-upmanship against the Greeks, who they were very intimidated by their culture and their prosperity and their richness and their philosophy. They were very, very threatened by that. So once they received the education from Greece, or from, they were African Greece, like that area, the Hellenistic period, is they wrote their book, basically revisionist history or yellow journalism, And if they could do it then, how much more do you think they were doing when they were getting their depictions? Like a lot of the Greek writings, we say it's Greek because it's a Greek name sound, and it's coming from an area that they're associated with the Greek Empire. But how do we know that it wasn't straight up lies, polemics, which means like a satire or an assault or a criticism? How do we know, just because it was written in the same, ancient Greek language, that it was an actual authentic Greek person leaving this information behind and not the ones that were taught Greek and were not Greek? And what their impression and their take would be extremely cynical, and they would most certainly poison those writings with their own practices, behaviors, lack of morality, wickedness, to where we also think that all the Greeks were, homosexuals or, fucking little boys. There could have been that going on, but how much of that was corruption by the moon cult, by the what would then later be called the Jews and yada yada? It's all things to consider. What we believe about history and who was actually doing the writing then and now, it seems like they've been taking that role for a very long time. And we know very well that, what type of institution Carnegie education is. Rockefeller, Carnegie, Rothschild being the three main influences in what we perceive and what children are taught. And then it spills out into, McGraw-Hill, Macmillan, and all that other stuff.
And if Jews are the only embodiment of the creative element, and that means none of us are, that means that we're all basically animals. And of course, we're subject to the masters, which would make us the slaves. Now let's get down to the specifics of give me liberty or give me anti-Semitism. What I am putting on the screen right now for those of you who cannot see is the Religious Liberty Commission report that was published in May of 2025, or based on the executive order from May 1st, 2025.
Fucking scumbags.
This has recently been circulating because people have looked through it and found that the Religious Liberty Commission, which you would think is focused on religious liberty, I don't even know why you need a Religious Liberty Committee anyway. We have the First Amendment. It's pretty explicit. It's pretty solid. It's pretty obvious. I don't really think you need a whole committee to determine what is religious liberty. Just don't force people to practice a certain religion, and don't prevent people from practicing a certain religion. So if we don't do those...
Well, hold on a second. You can't leave that open-ended like that, because once something becomes a cult or a military group posing as, like, it's a militant faction posing as a religion, then you can't say don't prevent them from practicing a religion, because if that religion includes causing harm to others, regarding others as insignificant, or that their lives are meaningless and treat them as such, that will also lead to violence. That will also lead to unconscionable and lack of remorse murdering of people. We can't just say, or the abuse of animals, even the murdering, the sacrificing of animals, of people. It's one thing to say religion, because if we're believing that means, because of what, my impression of what a religion is a set of ideals and morals and values that all should share because they're common sense, and then the practice of doing goodwill to others and reinforcing the good nature of God through acting accordingly and leading by example, and hoping that will rub off on others to do positive, equally good things in return and spread goodness, regardless of whatever they call their God, right? That would be a religion. It's not invasive, and it's not out to get somebody else. And it's not targeted. It's not a cell, like they call them cells, groups of people that are conspiring all the time for dominance and takeover, violent takeover of their enemies or destruction of their enemies. That is not a religion. That's something posed as a religion, trying to deflect and shield themselves from criticism, from inspection, and from elimination, because they're calling that a religion when it's not a religion. It's a cult. And I know people say, oh, there's a difference. Well, this is the difference to me. Religion is just about expressing the goodness that you feel about what you perceive as God, reflecting it through, or coming through you, and you reflecting it back, and how that makes you treat other people and perceive the world. You expressing that should be up to you, however you want to do that, provided it's. But this other thing, it's a group that's constantly working at the harm and demise of all others outside of their group. And they're calling that a religion, and it isn't. It's not a religion. It's not a religion. It's a violent, hostile organization, and one that you could call a cult, with complete with human sacrifice, efforts to poison that are successful, to lie, manipulate, deceive, to rob, to harm, to impoverish, and to murder. That's not a religion. They don't practice a religion. They should not have religious freedom, because it's not a religion.
Things, then we shouldn't need a commission. And if we have a commission, it should be to reinforce the First Amendment. It shouldn't be the allowance of testimony from Jews like Shabbos Kestenbaum, who is a Jewish Israeli agent who testified before the Religious Liberty Commission.
Well, that's the person that they grabbed? Like, again, because the nature of this country had changed a long time ago and nobody told anybody. So now you have the enemy of all goodness and living things being so influential because of the other machinations and levers of this alleged system being in the hands of that cult, that this is from this asshole's perspective, we're going to know what's acceptable for Christianity and what's acceptable for Americans, and how they're limited now because of what the Jews want. At the White House, or this high level, it's got to become clear to people at some point that where we are isn't in how we perceive this place is not what it seems, and it's very well overdue that if we liked the idea that we had of what this country was supposed to stand for, we have to restore that, because it's not there. We have to restore that because it's not functioning the way it's supposed to. It's been co-opted, hijacked, infiltrated, and that happened a long time ago.
Let's read a little bit about what Shabbos Kestenbaum said. This is the guy who is really just a Eastern European, a white guy, who has called Candace Owens everything I think that is really possible to call a woman, and a black woman. I think the only word he hasn't used is the N-word. He's called her. Candace is just another one of their puppets, though. So this is just play acting. Candace is just playing her role. She's actually, I think, isn't she married to somebody whose father is like an ultra Zionist? I think he's called her a bitch. I think he's called her a psychopath. He's called her all. But it's okay if a Jew says that about a black woman.
About a person? Forget about the woman and forget about the black. Because being a woman shouldn't give you any type of exceptions to criticism. Neither should being black give you any leniency towards criticism. Oh, you can't talk ill of them because they're a woman and they're black. No, you can criticize poor behavior no matter who the fuck it is. So I don't like the way that was framed.
As if that should matter anyway. It should matter what she says. Is she telling the truth? Is she right when she talks about these issues? From what I've heard from Candace, usually.
But she's also doing so without having any skin. She's an actor. No skin in the game. If you've ever seen her try to think, it's pretty juvenile. It's pretty It's mediocre. It's she lacks a bunch. She doesn't have a whole lot of stuff going on upstairs. So she presents stuff to a simple audience with simple points, and she's had everybody hooked on tune in next week for when I actually tell you what Charlie really was about. Oh, wait, there's 10 sentences here, but the other 150 sentences will come next week. Tune into it's like you're playing a game with something that you pretended was serious to you. It's all part of the distraction. Keep you glued, and then when somebody's dying to hear this stuff, they're not going to also criticize what's being said, especially if it's going to reconfirm the things that it's not going to be like some revelation. It's just going to confirm the same suspicions that people have already heard, and it'll be one or two details that you could put together to say, well, yeah, that kind of seems like it's reinforcing or supporting that about Charlie Kirk or whatever and what happened to him. He was against the Jews killed him. Yay. Yeah, but it was that's like saying that's the explanation for 9/11. No, it's because this country itself is the same entity, and they can kill you at will and blame whoever they want, and the majority of the people will believe you, will believe them. Now think about how that makes you more vulnerable to whatever the hell the government wants to do at any time against you, against your family, and how their control of the media and their control of one side and the other. So they're going to jump in front of the actual conversation and hijack that as well, so that the opposition to the mainstream narrative will always be controlled by their people as well, and it will omit all the stuff that's of real importance to that argument and only have the sanitized version, which it doesn't get you anywhere or solve any root issues of who's actually doing what. And it's just going to be more distraction while they continue to move forward with their mass murder meat grinding machine that's going to be powered by Palantir and AI.
Shabbos Kestenbaum began his testimony to the commission on a note of gratitude. Shabbos detailed his experiences of religious discrimination as a Jewish student at Harvard. Yes, he's so discriminated against that he's at Harvard. He's so discriminated against that the federal government wants him to testify and put his name front and center on a Religious Liberty Commission report. Some random Jew who isn't a random Jew, he's probably Mossad. He's probably IDF. Or at the very least, he works for the same people that they do. He says, to know that in the 21st century, American students and American citizens were denied access to education because of their religious identity. By the way, that never happened. Who was denied access to education because of their religious identity? People were denied access to institutions like Harvard because of their racial identity, thanks to Jewish liberal socialist policies, where they not only excommunicated whites, whatever that even means. Personally, I don't know what white means, but
right.
Where they excommunicated whites, but they also did the same thing to Asians.
You can just say ethnic European or Gothic Aryan or Germanic, whatever the case may be, Mediterranean. It's not like that thumb color there, or what's in the background of the secret teachings. Nobody looks like that except that guy Powder.
Who, if anybody's the smartest in the world, it's probably most of Eastern Asia. It's not the Jews.
Bro, failure. What it is your ancestors, my friend, who created the civilizations, who innovated, who is responsible for the maths, the sciences, the building methods. It's all our ancestors. Wrong. And who taught those other people in Eastern Asia? They might have had the capacity to actually retain it rather than, regress back into playing around in poop like in India. Like, yeah, it was a better group of people to actually give advice and ideas too, because it didn't deteriorate once that influence was gone into playing with shit and eating it.
So think about this. Literally, Jewish, socialist, communist, liberal policies created an environment at Harvard in which whites, Asians, anybody, including blacks, anybody who had really high test scores were kept out in favor of other people, including other blacks with low test scores.
Got to have that diversity.
Of the color of their skin.
30 by 30 kids.
And the associations that they had and the agenda of the enrollment staff. Kestenbaum says people were denied education because of their religious identity. That's not what happened. What happened was people were denied education because Jews and socialists advanced the ideas of affirmative action and social justice and kicking Asians out because if they're really smart, that's discriminatory toward people that are dumb. Of course, it implies that the blacks that they bring into Harvard are dumb. That's how this racism thing works. Like, well, we can't make blacks take tests. They'll fail them. Did you just hear what you said? If you make blacks take a test, driver's test, math test, they'll fail them. Like up in Oregon, where they don't require you to have math or basic literacy skills to graduate because it was affecting the blacks. Doesn't that kind of imply the blacks are illiterate and dumb? This is true word magic. He goes on to say, if these are Americans or policymakers, then there is no longer simply an anti-Semitism issue. This is that cuts at the core of our American democracy. I get it's our American democracy. Not American, you're an Israeli. And speaking like this makes you a subhuman Israeli at that. He says of our Western civilization. This is just like Jake Lang when he goes to the city council and he tells the city council, I know what you Muslims do. You can lie to us. You can steal from us. You want to conquer our civilization. Well, actually, everybody wants to conquer everybody else. Historically, that seems to be all of human history. But specifically, what he accuses the council of is exactly what his country does. It's exactly what his people do. He's not a Christian. He's a Jew that humps the wall, which I'm pretty sure is an old Roman fortress. That's Jake Lang. Kestenbaum is very similar. Our Western civilization. No. Not our Western civilization. My Western civilization. You're not a Westerner. You're a Jew pretending to be white, or you're a Eastern European white person pretending to be Jewish, pretending to be white. You didn't build anything. You are the reason why the Second World War started, why you had white Westerner Americans bombing white Westerner Germans, why you had Europeans murdering each other. You're the reason for World War II. Quite literally, because if it wouldn't have been for the bankers in London, if it wouldn't have been for the radical anti-German sentiment whipped up by radical Jewish groups like the Jewish Congress in the United States, we would have never fought the Germans. They would have deported all the Jews, which was the final solution. They would have deported them to Israel. We would have defeated the Soviet Union, which is primarily Jewish, at the top of the communist, socialist, Soviet system, conceptually and literally, at the very least, the secret police and the protocols of Goyim, the protocols of Zion, and the world would probably be a much better place. At the very least, if we would have done what General Patton wanted to do after the war. But no, you got us to kill people that look and think exactly like us. Do you know that Germany was 95% Christian? Do you know that Germany was not only 95% Christian, but the Christian ethos and the very positive aspects of Christianity, the cleanliness, the organization, the families, all that stuff, you turned upside down and said those are the reasons why Hitler and the Germans were evil? Because they wanted families, they wanted clean streets, they wanted to get rid of the drugs and the porn, because they wanted to have Christian communities. Did you know that? Germany was 95% Christian, and a bunch of psychotic Jews in New York convinced the war machine of America to go to war and slaughter people that were basically us. Do you know how much of America was built on the backs of Germans? Or the Irish? Or even the Chinese, for that matter? Jews didn't do anything except money grab, with very few exceptions. So Kestenbaum, despite all, is testifying and lying and subverting the Religious Liberty Commission. Of course, Shabazz, like any good Jew, jumped on the lawsuit against Harvard, filed by a bunch of other Jewish students across the country. And I love this part. An attack on one Christian is an attack on one Jew, and an attack on one Jew is an attack on one Christian. I mean, incredible. Absolutely incredible. Because the people that are attacking the Christians, that's Jewish Hollywood. It's Adam Sandler and Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld. It's Seth Rogen. That's who's attacking the Christians. So if the Jews are attacking the Christians, then they're also attacking themselves, which is also an attack on the Christians, because they're blending together Christianity and Judaism in the same way that they're blending together the United States and Israel. I mean, this is just incredible. Shabazz Kestenbaum says an attack on Christians, which his people orchestrate on a daily basis, is an attack on the Jews. So when they attack the Christians, it's actually an attack on themselves. In other words, they're a victim, not because people are attacking Jews, but because people like themselves are attacking Christians. I mean, the mind games, the manipulation of really basic fundamental things that ground us in reality is truly incredible. It's truly incredible. I am truly at a loss for words for a lot of this. If you go to this Religious Liberty Commission report, you type in anti-Semitism, you'll notice you get 10 hits for it. The Shabazz Kestenbaum section is one of them, but they have a whole chapter on anti-Semitism. An entire chapter.
Of course
they have rabbis talking to the commission. Let's read a little bit about this anti-Semitism. They say in the last 5 years, 63%.
We'll wrap up this section there in just a minute.
Motivated hate crimes in the United States have been targeted toward Jewish organizations and individuals, according to statistics from the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Of course it would be.
Now, if you were to compare that to the anti-Muslim hate crimes or the any other group of hate crimes, and you were to subtract the number of so-called Jewish hate crimes that are actually orchestrated by Jews and Jewish organizations, and you to tighten the definition of anti-Semitism so that it didn't include people who, I don't know, there's a guy in his car who's Jewish and somebody cuts him off in traffic, and that was basically the Holocaust, and they report that to the FBI, nor does it include all the other truly anti-religious so-called, quote, hate crimes, not necessarily hate crimes, but that are directed toward everybody else who's not Jewish that are not reported. They say this minority faith group has become a primary target of the growing anti-religious sentiment in our country. Now, people aren't really upset at Jews. They're really upset at Israel. And the Jews that don't speak against this are part of the problem. And so, fortunately, get grouped together with the Jews who don't speak out against it and the Jews that are orchestrating it. Unfortunately, the Jews that don't speak out against it are just like the rest of us. We're all subhuman animals, right? Because we're not masters of the universe. If Jews don't embrace this...
And they'll take advantage of that identity so long as it looks like they're more well-funded members are, quote-unquote, winning.
Master title, then they're just like the rest of us.
None of them ever say, I denounce this. This person does not speak for us. This is poor behavior. We apologize, and he's been excommunicated. They don't do that. They'll double down and defend no matter how wicked the crime is.
They're traitors to their own people. Recognizing the urgency of this issue, the Commission dedicated attention to understanding the scope and origins of anti-Semitism in addition to its possible solutions. Anti-Semitism has been a source of suffering throughout world history. In fact, some have called anti-Semitism the canary in the coal mine for civil rights because a rise in anti-Semitism often precedes the erasure of many other civil rights. Well, that's because there's no solution usually to the Jewish problem. So eventually the only solution becomes a heavy-handed approach to having to perform what amounts to an emergency surgery and cutting these people out of society, which of course affects...
Which has been our purpose, and I'm pretty sure it was laid out quite a few times. It's not our purpose to go after and seek, but when we identify a predator and you don't want to be the prey, it only makes sense that you would take precautions to make sure that you're not going to become prey. Not let them grow in strength and influence and power and utilizing their financial deceptions so that it's nearly impossible to untangle them from your society without people freaking out because they think that they are dependent on certain things that they offer.
People that are Jewish that don't participate in this stuff, and it affects everybody else who essentially loses their rights in the process of the Jews being deported from one of hundreds of countries over the thousands of years that they've been wandering around. Given the global history of violence against Jewish communities, of course, none of that's ever justified. None of that's ever understandable at the very least. You know, like what the Romans did, that's not understandable. The Romans were crazy. There was no reason. There was no revolts. There was no accusations against the Romans. There was no horrible things the Jews were doing that provoked the Romans to respond. None of that was true. The Romans just attacked the Jews for innocently meditating in fields with flowers, milk, and honey. The United States has historically proudly been a place where Jewish Americans can live in safety, free to live out their faith with equal rights to religious liberty. Yep, that's unfortunately true. I say unfortunately because as we approach the 4th of July, it is the founding principles of this country which will be its downfall because they have been twisted and turned by lawyers and because they have been distorted and exploited by Jews like Kestenbaum and others who like to use the law against the country, who like to use religious freedom to destroy religious freedom. That's
exactly what Samuel Morse was warning people of.
That's what this report is all about. The Religious Liberty Commission held a hearing on anti-Semitism. You don't need to write hundreds of pages on this. And anti-Semitism is not even a religious issue. It's like a racial genetic issue, right? It's not a religious issue. It really should boil down to the First Amendment and the First Amendment only. You don't need to write anything more than that. In fact, some of the original founders said that we don't even need this Bill of Rights because if the things that the government can do and can't do are not written down, then that's the end of it. If it's not written down that the government can restrict your religious freedoms, etc., then they can't do it. But we ended up getting a Bill of Rights anyway, and it prevents the government from abridging fundamental freedoms such as your right to practice your own religion, which also means you have a right to not be subject to other people's religions, which means that you can't force me to worship you as a Jew, and you can't force me to hate the Muslims, and you can't force me to read the Bible, and you can't force me to not read the Bible. You also can't force me to not dislike Muslims or not dislike Jews or not dislike Christians. That's what the First Amendment is all about. If I want to own a Bible, if I want to own a Quran, if I don't want to read either one of those books when I'm in a government institution, you can't force me. And if I don't want to worship Jews, I don't have to. And if I want to, for some sick reason, I can. Until we get to the point where government...
Until it becomes a cause no harm situation. Those who are causing harm are still breaking the one and only true law.
Officials are traitors and sellouts to a foreign nation and a foreign people, then we should get the rope out. Then we should have real hearings about what constitutes real religious discrimination.
I don't have the laptop out here to be commenting back on any type of chat, so we'll go to that directly after this.
Report is basically a report on to eliminate, how to ban any real or perceived, quote, discrimination or hate against the Jewish community.
Or perceived.
Of all the people that suffer from
mental gymnastics, it was perceived to be a threat. And that's all it'll take for Palantir to put you on a threat assessment list and send out the drones.
Discrimination and hate crimes and violence and assaults on their public image by Hollywood or the media. Muslims are just dirty and evil. Heard that for 20 plus years.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of Muslim banks in America. Do you see any Muslim banks?
My lifetime, anyway. They have sex with goats. They live in caves. They're animals. They're stupid.
I mean, all religions are kind of stupid. But
well, all of that is...
It's an overcomplication, so you can have middlemen. Again, that middleman syndrome
is basically illegal. And if anti-Semitism is the real root source of motivation behind the Religious Liberty Commission, what do we do when we define anti-Semitism under the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism? What we get is, as I said earlier, the Bible. The Bible becomes illegal. At least certain parts of the Bible become illegal. The New Testament, in particular, becomes illegal. Not the Old Testament. That's why Trump was reading from the Old Testament about the Jewish temple as he pays a Jewish temple renovator to build this bunker in the form of Solomon's temple under the White House.
In the form of the fraudulent, never was real, false history. First, second, and so this. You mean the first temple? You're talking about third temple, and you're kind of jumping ahead on the chronology there because all the other things you just wrote about weren't real. So what are you talking about here?
The working definition of anti-Semitism from the Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, the IHRA, includes you can't question history, and also if you believe that Jesus was killed by Jews and not the Romans, that would be anti-Semitic. Using the symbols and images associated with classical anti-Semitism, claims of Jews killing Jesus, or blood libel to characterize Israel or Israelis. Accusing Jews as a people of exaggerating the Holocaust. Well, they didn't just collectively get together and say, let's exaggerate the Holocaust. The whole thing was a narrative propped up by several factors, including the fact that, like you heard earlier, Jews are the masters of the universe. When you have people that believe we are the masters of the universe, we are literally God in a physical body. Yeah, I can completely understand why people that didn't actually experience the things that we were told they experienced would parrot those ideas, especially when it's 30, 40 years after the supposed events took place and they're living comfortably at 80, 90, 100 years old in places like Brooklyn, and they're interviewed by the Holocaust documentarians who ask them, how was it at Auschwitz? And they say, it was awful at Auschwitz because they've seen Steven Spielberg's movies too. Let's listen to Donald Trump talk about the Religious Liberty Commission report.
We're almost done.
America was founded by people of faith, and it was settled as a haven for religious freedom, so important as we prepare to celebrate the
way to misconstrue that and twist that around.
250th anniversary of our founding next week. It is only appropriate that
there is no 250th anniversary of something that was destroyed and repurposed into a corporatocracy by 1871. There is no 250th anniversary of anything. Of the time of the Declaration of Independence, sure, but not of the country. The country is a corporate entity, and the country is not the same nature. When something completely changes its nature, it's a different dynasty.
Work to strengthen this fundamental right and to most essentially have liberty for generations to come. We want religious liberty. We want liberty, but we also want religious liberty.
We will closely study this.
I think those two are the same thing. If you have liberty, you don't need religious liberty. Liberty implies that you have the right to practice or not practice whatever religion that you choose.
Report that is being presented to me as president today, and my administration will continue to work with the pillars of protecting religious liberty for all Americans, and we must also remain one nation under God. We will never let that phrase.
Unfortunately, one nation under God means one nation under the Jewish God, not the Christian God, because remember...
Yeah, Baal, Loki, the Demiurge, Set, Saturn, Kronos, that guy. The eater and killer of children.
Christian God is anti-Semitic.
Be stolen from us. People are trying to steal it. We all know that.
Yeah, they imply the Muslims are trying to steal. It's actually the Jews who are trying to steal. It's all...
They already stole it, bro.
Throughout the Religious Liberty Commission report.
Very well, that phrase will never be stolen. It will stand proudly in our courts and everywhere else.
The idea that we trust in God does not mean we trust in a specific God. It means that we trust in the universal creative force.
The benevolent creator. And that was an idea brought forth to the rest of mankind by our ancestors. You want proof? Look at the British Edda and Makers of Civilization in Race and History by this guy.
It applies to everybody, not one group of people or another group of people. And if you want to give special rights to certain groups of people, then you're stripping by implication rights from other groups of people. You can't have religious liberty or liberty at all if you're defining liberty as certain groups of people cannot say or do certain things because it offends other groups of people. That is the antithesis of the First Amendment. That is the antithesis of both free speech and your freedom to practice whatever religion you want to practice.
You can criticize everybody except for these guys, in which case it would be a crime. It is not free speech, especially when wouldn't that be the opportunistic thing to hide all evil doing behind that which cannot be criticized, so that the mere mention of their crimes becomes a crime in itself?
Using our foundational principles against us and showing how they can be inverted and distorted, but still spoken about in name, to celebrate the 4th of July. If I was in America right now, I would not be celebrating the 4th of July. I would be mourning for our flag, for our Constitution, for our way of life, because our country has been completely overrun. It's been occupied for decades, but it's been completely overrun.
More than decades.
By Jewish supremacists that are hell-bent on obliterating your liberties, obliterating your religious freedoms. Whether it's guns, or it's a closed border, or it's decency, or it's your right to pray to whomever you want to pray to. But they said liberty, so it must be Jesus, right? They love Jesus, right? No, they love the Jewish God of human sacrifice. They love the Jewish religion.
Doesn't he sound like me?
It
Sounds
is
like
a
me.
Socialist political system. That's what they love. That's why Trump is reading from the Old Testament, not the New Testament. That's why we dedicated the country once again to God. But not the God that our founders were thinking of. The God that Israel worships. The one that demands we blow up children to start a war that's not a war. The one that demands that we blow up hospitals and we blow up Christian villages.
I brought this up too. With Canada taking out certain sections saying this is anti-Semitic. You can't have that. You can't have that in the Bible.
And the United States is not the only place where this type of thing is happening. Canada's House of Commons passed Bill C.
Combating hate. There's hate in your book that tells you about these people who are evil. So who do you think runs your world with the if merely calling out their crimes, which are legitimate and actual? That's hate. First of all, hate speech. Criticism is what it is. It's ridicule, criticism, mockery, or plain ignoring evil. They absolutely hate that, and they have zero tolerance for it. They go nuts, especially when they're being ignored. But ignoring them in the sense where you're not aware that they're conspiring against you is one thing. It's another thing when they're trying to get under your skin to cause a response or to be heard or to be seen, and you dismiss them and you carry on and you're flourishing without their without accepting them in as being a necessity in your life. That's when they hate it.
The Combating Hate Act in March of this year, which includes an amendment that removes a long-standing religious exemption in hate speech law. The measure has gone to the Senate and is not officially law yet in Canada. I believe that it has, since this particular report was published, it has been advanced. I don't know if it's technically law yet. I would assume it wouldn't be till next year because that's usually how things work. Of course, some faith leaders and conservative outlets have warned that removing the exemption could make quoting certain Bible passages legally risky, while government defendants and Jewish advocacy groups say the bill targets hate and terrorism symbols, not the act of reading sacred texts.
Hate and terrorism symbols.
Well, again...
Isn't that... Okay, so the Remphan star of child sacrifice and Saturn, that would apply. That's a symbol. Oh, it doesn't apply to them? Oh, gotcha. Yeah, okay. Anything that opposes that cult of child sacrifice, that's where the symbols are bad.
Until you read the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism.
Drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. Well, that again is a deception unto itself, because that's what their impression that they gave you, that they sold you of what a National Socialist is, and calling... No National Socialist would ever call themselves a Nazi. I know we go over this a lot, but it's a disparate. It's like calling yourself an idiot. It's like, yeah, we're the idiots. I mean, that'd be a funny name for like a rock band or something, but it's not what people who take themselves seriously and are noble and just and good leaders would call themselves. Yeah, we're whatever the Jews called us. And not Nutzi or Nazi is a term that was around to depict actually a Roman Catholic country bumpkin, is how it boils out. We went into the etymology of the word. I think that's the right word, the right term, quite a while back, but it's it was just only applied to them by a Jewish journalist, because is there any other kind really of journalist?
Anti-Semitic. Revelation would be anti-Semitic. Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John would be anti-Semitic. The entire New Testament would be anti-Semitic. The entire New Testament is antithetical to the Old Testament. That's why it's a New Testament. It's a New Testament, not an old one. The old one is done. It's useless. We have the New Testament. We have the New Covenant. It applies to everybody, not one group of people.
And there's only 2 commandments in that one. It's basically cause no harm in a sense. Love your neighbor as yourself and love your God. 2. Because all the other things would be taken care of in that. And remember, thou shalt not kill. No, it's thou shalt not murder. Killing is what you do to prevent murderers from continuing to murder. That's not a bad thing.
That's why the New Testament is a threat, because it has for centuries replaced the Old Testament covenant. That's why Rome and the symbols of Rome are still a threat. Because the Romans invented the modern church to replace the empire. That's why Catholics, more than any other Christian denomination, have been at war with the Jews since their inception, since Constantine. The people that are
the term Goyslop is now anti-Semitic because it's implying that they're poisoning you with garbage. Because that's reality.
Christianity, the people that are attacking Catholics in particular, the people that are attacking the Bible and the Quran, the people that are attacking your right to religious freedom and liberty, the people that are doing this are not Muslims, they're Jews. That's what they are. You shouldn't use that terminology. Well, what else should I say? That's what they are. And if you have no problem with people saying the Muslims are doing this, well, guess what? The Jews are doing this. I say that because I have a right to free speech. And in fact, I have a duty and a responsibility as an American, no matter where I'm living in the world. As long as I'm an American citizen, as long as I am educated on the subject, I have a right and a responsibility and a duty to point out the fact and the contradiction and the hypocrisy that it is not acceptable to demean and degrade and mock and ridicule and criticize and accuse one group of people of all these horrible things like the Muslims and the Arabs, when they're as diverse as any other community, any other culture, any other group of people.
So, you guys got a little bit of a taste of that, and that's he'll be with us eventually, and maybe sometime next week. What the hell is this? What the hell? What am I looking at? As if, yeah, okay. Anyway, let's get to the. Hey, look, there are people talking here. All right, cool. We'll get to the top here. Hello, usury combustion. What's up? Irvat, Nagurski, how do y'all? Busy days. All right, you guys talking to each other. Will there be another interview with Ryan? Yes. Yep, he's coming on. Toasty. Yep. Croatia, big cut ever since the episode. Ever seen the episode of Going Postal that spoke of the Croatian disciplining of a pair of Muslim brothers, blowtorch and eyeballs? Also, they deserved it. Never seen that. Okay, but I guarantee they deserved it. You guys talk to each other. Plural of Jesus is Jesse. Dan, correct? Continual brainwashing resulted in denial and inactivity when speaking of Gothic heritage. Thanks again for furthering my awakening comprehensions I once denied. Yep. 2,000 years overdue. Big smile. Raymond Burr moment. Raymond Burr or Aaron Burr? 100% corruption of the Saturn cult, said Irvat. Island of Lesbo is not bad for a wild weekend. Good evening, Karen. I may have to go, but I wanted to say hi to all you troublemakers. All right, cool. Karen says, I'm 100% anti-cockroachism and parasites. That's funny. Dan knows how to ban trogs and LARPers. Toasty! He did it again, yeah. Yes. Oh, wait, that happened again? It like doubled up. Wow, that was weird. All right. I don't understand why I did it all over again. All right. Oldest branch of High German. Oh, and Nazi. Nazi straight is. Irva, I'm just waiting for the term Satan's Little Helpers and this emoji to make the list. All right. Oh yeah, of course the juice box. I'm sure it's already. I don't think we're as clever as we think we are when it comes to YouTube censorship or whatever. Where are we at for time? I think they're about to say hasta and leave. It's at 3 hours. I think we're probably good. We see that Dr. Glidden will be with us on Friday at the regular time, but just on Friday instead because I gotta venture off into Diego, not Garcia, thank God. But I gotta drop off the sauce, so I'll be back after that. And then my daughter's birthday, and then I guess the end of gasoline. Is that what I'm to hear? Fireworks, but no gasoline. That's what we got. coming up. if we are to believe what they say. And when it comes to threats, they pretty much are, on the money with that. On the money while stealing yours. Okay, so if you guys want to follow over at the Wisdom Fitness AZ, more stuff will be added to that. There'll be some, good infusion of what other online coaches say and where they're missing big chunks of the elements and they're missing understanding of things because that's how mainstream allopathic knowledge, quote unquote, makes people think, and they don't question that part because people are smarter than me because it's been settled that science right now it's keeping you sick and not understanding the fundamental things about your vital force and what it needs keeps you on their drugs. So better way to approach health, fitness, which are two different things. And in addition to that, some other fun stuff, including technique, demos, and then reactions to other people and, again, what they missed and what they got right. That'll be on that channel. LeaveBigPharmBehind.com. We have literally an hour and 38 minutes left to use that code. An hour and 38 minutes left to use Solstice for 50% off the annual. And then after that, you can use code BALLBUSTERS, but only for 25% off the annual or the monthly. You can still do the monthly right now with the 25% off. But if you want to take advantage of this Solstice here, which is typically only once a year that he does this, we'll see. Last time he did it for like a month. This time he did it shorter. So we'll see. We've already got some people coming over, which is good. And you will not be disappointed. Everybody who signed up under that link here has not left yet. So Solstice for 50% off annual, and you'll get it locked in. So you don't have to worry about what the prices are going to do in the future. You'll always be locked in at the one that you get there. Okay, and then Azure Standard, we know about that. You click that, you get your 90 Essentials, and you're rocking and rolling. And then my site will land you on both of those. It'll show you the code is BB5, Bravo Bravo 5, in big bold gold right there. And it says it right there too. When you click that picture, you get your 90 Essentials. And you can click this picture to get your membership. And then if you want Dr. Monzo's book or any of the other stuff there, I think it's already added. It's like already linked in. I don't think you have to add a code. You should be getting discounts on whatever he applied the code to on his site simply by clicking that and then doing your thing. The Rumble channel that's devoted directly just to Dr. Glidden and Dr. Monzo and Dr. Talks is this right here. You can click that, and then there's the sauces and the creatine and the honey. And if you are out there like Peter, everything's ready to rock. Rebecca's doing labels and packages, and it's all on its way out. And anyone else who had placed an order, they are on their way. Underlay. And yeah, so the 18th is when we're having the party for my daughter, but I have to be here for the special surprises and stuff like that on Thursday. So I got to do my thing tomorrow. My 6-hour round trip. That's, if I get lucky, it's only that long as far as the driving. But, spending lots of time in there taking care of some stuff and picking up more supplies. So I'll be getting back probably late. Maybe I'll be able to put a show on if I'm not too exhausted tomorrow, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe you'll see me again tomorrow. On my daughter's birthday, though, I don't know what the plans are. And I don't want to be locked away in the office. I don't even like it when she's awake to be here locked away in the office, but I say to myself, it's important. So plus I could just go over there and there's times when she just doesn't want to do anything. I'll offer, hey, you want to hang out? And just literally, she's at that age now. It's like, we used to do so many fun things together. We used to go out, feed the ducks and go on adventures, and we just it didn't matter what the thing was that we did. It was about hanging out with Dad. Now things are more complicated, and I don't like it. I'm told it's just a phase. Anyhow, there's that. All right. And we'll go into more of this tomorrow too, but I didn't expect it to be as intrigued and landing on. And there's still some more of this Gable thing that I think we should listen to, because I came in on this chat a little bit late. I didn't realize he had already gone way that much into, because he had been posting up or showing some Trump stuff, and then I was like working at the time, so there were times when I was watching this and I wasn't watching it. So there's still some good information here before he goes into his Q&A. I'm not his Q&A, but his chat and answering the chat questions. So I think maybe we'll grab a little bit more of this the next time we talk too. Last time we're on the show together. I appreciate everything. Let's see what we got over here. We got some people talking. Let's see. I like this person. What's the topic here? And because I didn't respond right away, bye. And this is from yesterday, but it says, what you just said, Jews infiltrate an organization, nobility, Lutheran church, etc. Then they trade on their former good name. Identity Christians make the argument that this is the exact process that occurred with what it means to be Judean. They trade on that tribe. Organization's good name. And he said, have a good evening. I said, hello, Genuine Goy. And I said, you have been made a mod. And Kyan Schwartz is here, says, hey, bro, my state is hiring foreign nons and allowing them to be police. That's horrific. The replacement thing. They're like, oh, nobody would ever attack us. These are our sons and daughters here in these uniforms. You sure about that? When they are ready to do what they're going to do, they're not going to have any attachment to this place, this territory, or to feeling any empathy or sympathy for you. I remember that the background radiation at the beach is like 50 times higher than it should be. Yep. And Feared Pigeon. Oh, that's a cool name. Oh, yeah, your road slash is like gigantic. How'd you do that? That's cool. All right. We good? Everybody good? Cool. Hey, if we get to 300, that'd be kind of cool too. I don't know if you want to do that. All right. I think we're good. I think we've said everything we need to say. Have any sample sizes of sauces available since making those large orders, sir? No, because I don't have the containers right now. I have to see about that. I don't really have a whole lot of time because of what's going on this week, so I can't even go out to LA. It would be horrible to have to do that anyway, but from my start position now, it's a 10-hour round trip to go get bottles, and that's where I get the other smaller containers too. But if I went to San Diego, did the order thing, delivered that, and then went straight to LA, it would be like another 2.5 hours. Depending on traffic, it could be up to 3 hours. But then I would have to somehow get there before they closed and then come all the way back here. It's not going to happen this trip, so I'm not going to be able to get those. I can order the plastic stuff, but I can't order the glass because shipping rates are ridiculous, and it's just not worth it. So I have to go there in person. It's still cheaper for me to go in person. Yeah, I know. LA is a cesspool. But it's also worth reclaiming. Spence? We need to what? There's the Buy Me a Coffee thing that you usually do, the Give, Send, Go, the PayPal.me, and those would be the ways I would say. But you should probably be a member of Dr. Glidden's if you want to support the show. You also have access that way. And like I said, 50% off for the next hour and a half. And then get yourself healthy. Do the Azure Standard. I don't get a whole lot out of this, but it's going to be beneficial to you to have these things. So it's good. It's a win-win. The 90 essential nutrients. Do it for 90 days, 120 days. Let's just 4 months. Do it consistently. And all that good stuff. I'm just reading. Oh, sorry, I got distracted. Yeah, like the 2-ounce containers I don't even have right now, and I have to order some of those because somebody had ordered some. They gave me more bottoms than tops, and that was stupid of them. I have a bag of some fucking assholes. Anyway. Oh, well. So yeah, not essentials, but yeah, there's always the Give Send Go here, which is that right there. Bam. All right, and then there's the Buy Me a Coffee right here. Righty. And then there's the PayPal. It just looks bland. You just pick whatever you want. What do you do? I don't know what that's. I don't know how that works. I guess you just Is there? I was thinking there was a no. I guess you have to click that and sign in. So that's PayPal from PayPal. I thought you could use a card though. I thought that was a thing. I thought the PayPal.me allowed you to use a card, but I guess not. Maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe just go through the rigmarole bullshit there. Oh, you know what I forgot to say at the beginning of this? If you're listening to this on Spreaker, I mean, if you're listening to this as a podcast, yada. I never played that. Oops. But yeah, the Buy Me a Coffee is probably the most accessible, or the Give Send Go. Buy Me a Coffee and Give Send Go would probably be the two ones. But if you just want to become a Patreon member, you could do that, 3, 5, or 10 a month, and then I did a exclusive thing over there, and we'll continue to do more of that stuff. So there you have it. Okay, I think we went through everything. Let me double check the chats. Good. Chat pause. Okay, I think we're good then. All right, guys, have a good night. Appreciate your time. And good to see. Wait a minute. How come? Isn't that you, Edward? You have 2 accounts or what? Oh, did you want me to look at it? I can. Let me see. I'll be able to tell you in a second. Yeah, that looks like a new one. Thank you, Edward. Because I usually am good about saying thank you right away, and that one doesn't have a reply yet. So yes, thank you very much, Edward Snowman. Very, very much appreciated. Once again, it is greatly appreciated. And I took this little image out of here because I didn't see the point. There's links here. There's the Twitter and all that stuff. So that's all there. The picture just kind of took away. It's like it was an old picture. It still said Joshua TV on it. I guess I could add another picture if I wanted to. And I guess you can actually put a little video here too with a link. So maybe I'll work on something there. And it doesn't work nearly the same as Patreon, but it's kind of similar. Oh, there's also this thing too. If you guys are in the UK, there's a Tippy stream with like 3 I think that's how you do it. Is it 2 E's? Come on. Don't fucking go do the whole thing. Not put 2 of them, you fucking... Oh my god. Are you serious? Fuck off. It's a thing. I don't know why it's not picking it up. Let me see if I can just do it by search. I had a Tippy stream on here. It's 3 E's, just like I had it before. Right? I don't know what else I was getting wrong. It should just pop up. I don't have... What do you mean with YouTube? The fuck is that? Ah, you fucking... Just get rid of the part that I want you to do. Don't fucking do... All right, so let's see. See if it still exists. Yeah, it still exists. It's still there. So if you're doing it in like euros or whatever, there you go. I'm sure all this information's old, but it should still be somewhat relevant. And there you go. The pictures should probably be updated and all that stuff, but that is Tippy stream. I don't know why they want me to log. I don't have a Twitch. All right, that's it. Kind of ran out a little bit. No, what? Okay. All right. Well, that's it. We'll talk later.